WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Why I couldn't say the phone number there. When we come back, we're going to switch gears and get into the Tennessee Titans. Who's the favorite right now in the AFC South? John Clayton had some interesting thoughts yesterday on Darren Donick and Chase. We'll discuss those next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Streaming live on Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch. Taking your thoughts all show long on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. So we're about 4 months away from the start of the NFL season. The draft has taken place. Free agency has taken place. Still some free agents that are out there and more activity could happen. But right now, the roster for the Titans looks pretty dramatically different than it did this time a year ago. And the roster for the Colts looks pretty dramatically different than it did this time a year ago as well. Carson Wentz has come in, is now the starting quarterback in Indianapolis. The Titans have basically revamped almost their entire defense heading into this season. So lots of changes in the AFC South. Trevor Lawrence coming in as well, and Houston is basically a dumpster fire at this point. So it feels like, Joe, it's a race heading into this season basically between two teams, and that's the Titans and the Colts. I don't expect the Texans to be a factor, even though Jacksonville's got a lot of energy right now with Trevor Lawrence coming in, Urban Meyer coming in. I still think they're a ways away from being a threat in the AFC South. So it feels like a two-team race. Question is, who's the favorite heading into this season? Is it the Titans or is it the Colts? And John Clayton, a longtime reporter for ESPN and now doing some work out in Seattle as well, joined Darren Donick and Chase yesterday and offered his thoughts about the AFC South and who he would consider to be the favorite. Here's what John Clayton had to say.
There's been so many up and downs right now with the roster, the cornerback position with the Titans and different moves, letting guys go and stuff like that. I kind of give the edge right now to the Colts. We'll see where it goes with Carson Wentz, but I think Frank Reich can do a good job with him. I mean, it's still two playoff caliber teams, but I kind of give the edge right now to the Colts. They added two pass edge rusher, defensive ends. That did help. I mean, they do have a big question mark at left tackle that they got to resolve because Anthony Costanzo retired. So are they going to sign Charles Leno or what are they going to do there? But I think overall, the slight edge goes to the Colts, and obviously Houston's just a trash dump right now, and Jacksonville is on the rebuilding process. It looks like they'll probably go 5-1 in the division for both teams.
So that was John Clayton yesterday on Darren Donick and Chase. I do love how he referred to Houston as a trash dump. That was great.
There's a little, like it's not dumpster fire.
No.
It's not hot garbage.
Trash
it's not
dump.
just trash. Like a lot of people say they're trash. Trash dump. I like that. A little variation from John.
They're just a trash dump.
Might have to use that moving forward here when it comes to the Texans. I think that's probably an accurate description. But John Clayton labeling the Colts as his favorite in the AFC South heading into the season. What do we think about that? As you look at these two teams, the moves that have been made, and what to gauge this AFC South as we head into the season here, how would you answer this question? Who should be the favorite right now in the AFC South? Is it the Titans or is it the Indianapolis Colts?
I think it's the Titans still, and it's close because there's so many questions with the Titans. I think that the Colts, like a year ago, by the way, will be the more popular pick.
I would agree.
I think the Colts, and I think it's a little bit weird because there's such a question for them at quarterback. And there's not a question for the Titans at quarterback. No matter what, you may still be like, Tannehill. But if you really look at this, you have and what he's done over the last 2 years and what Carson Wentz has been through, then don't you have to feel like the Titans are in a more reliable situation there?
I don't think it's even close.
I'm not like on like some people think like, oh, Wentz, what a disastrous pick. I could see it working out. But if that's one of your questions, then to me, that means a lot. Also, the Colts fans are not thrilled across the board with this draft because they didn't draft a left tackle. There's a lot of offensive tackles in the draft. They didn't draft one, I was very surprised by that. Right now they've got some internal because Costanzo's retired. They got like some internal candidates. Maybe it's like with the Titans and tight end. They're going to go out there on the free agent market or make a trade or something like that. But right now it's Sam Tevy is the internal guy who they're talking about. They think he can do a good job. But that was a surprise. I didn't think the Colts draft was like amazingly good either. Although I like Odeyingbo, and I think Kwity Paye will be good. But I get and I totally don't get Sam Ehlinger at quarterback. By the way, awful story.
Yeah.
Yesterday we were talking about between the break. His little brother passes away yesterday. I look at their draft. I thought it was okay. I look at their roster. Could you make the case it's a better roster top to bottom than the Titans? Yes. But if the question mark is quarterback, I think that makes up for a lot of roster difference, and I don't think there's a huge difference anyway.
Well, and also, like, not only with quarterback, but I still look at wide receiver for the Colts, and I'm like, I mean, you've got Michael Pittman there that I think is really good, and I feel good about. I mean, obviously, T.Y. Hilton is not the same guy as he used to be. I don't just view the wide receiver position for the Colts and think, oh, yeah, they've got like 3 guys out there that scares you. I mean, Pittman, I guess, scares you a little bit, but even he, like, you're not shaking in your boots over Michael Pittman at this point in his career. I don't think that they're all that talented at the wide receiver position.
I would agree. I heard TD talking on Jared and company yesterday about Mike Strahan.
Yeah.
If I'm saying that right, the 7th-round pick. 6'5", 229, big-time speed. But, it's 7th-round pick. I mean, who knows? Receiver draft, as we've talked about, so many different guys. Maybe he'll come in and make a difference, but I agree they're not great there. I think look, if you're fine at left tackle, you have a heck of an offensive line, love their running game. All that stuff should help. Carson Wentz should be so different for him than what he's been dealing with. So you keep him upright, healthy, I think you're good. But, yeah, they don't scare you with their weapons. And, honestly, I don't think their corners are great either. They got Xavier Rhodes back for a year. I mean, I still like their front 7, but I also think you take away a really good player and you add him to this team.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind too. I mean, obviously they went out and drafted to replace him, and I think Kwity Paye will matter for them this year. He might be a first year, a rookie starter. But Odeyingbo, the problem with him, and I like his long-term upside. I really am going to be interested to see how he does in the NFL. I like that for him to go there. But coming off an Achilles tear, so you can't necessarily count on a ton from your 2nd-round pick next year either.
Look, I think it's close. Like, I'm not sitting here saying the Titans are some overwhelming favorite in the AFC South, because I think there are a lot of questions with the Titans as well. I mean, we've talked so much about defense, but offensively, like, how big is the drop-off between Arthur Smith and Todd Downing? Is there a drop-off? Like, how much do you miss Corey Davis? Like, I mentioned the Colts and their wide receiver room. Right now, the Titans' wide receiver room doesn't scare me very much either. I mean, obviously, outside of A.J. Brown, which you know what you're going to get from him, you don't really know past that. So, look, there are a lot of question marks with both teams, but when it's that close, like, I always go back to the quarterback, and I feel so much better if I'm a Titans fan about Ryan Tannehill than I would if I'm a Colts fan about Carson Wentz. Now, I'm with you. Like, I think some people and some Titans fans, like, celebrated when Carson Wentz ended up in Indianapolis. I think you can do that at your own peril. Like, I think he's got a chance to work out and be pretty good for the Colts. Now, I also think he's got a chance to go completely the other way and to continue to be a disaster. And if that happens, you're sitting pretty if you're the Titans this year. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but because, as you said, the weapons may not be there. The offensive line is still pretty good, and he's going to have a lot better protection than he did certainly last year in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, just to have that running game, which, I mean, I love their backs. That's just a huge difference for him.
And Marlon Mack coming back in there. Like, right. I was surprised he came back, but
they've
got like a 3-headed monster now.
It's almost too many good backs, but we've seen the Wentz to me is the classic. I think of Marcus Mariota, and Wentz has played at a higher level than Mariota ever did. So keep that in mind. Wentz was an MVP level. You think back to when they came in here in 2018 with that huge win for the Titans, and the Eagles had just won it. Wentz, of course, was hurt for Super Bowl. I mean, he was a heck of a player back then.
Yeah.
And now that's 3 years ago. Have the injuries diminished him? Probably some. How much? We're going to find out this year. Like, Mariota is a guy who, again, if you watch him in 2016, the guy was on a certain track and he breaks the leg and it never got back to that. That's my assessment of him. and other injuries too, obviously, the nerve stuff, all that stuff. Wentz has had a variety, so how much has that affected him? But we've seen him play at a high level in this league. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And this is a very quarterback-friendly – because, again, like Phillip Rivers to me, he did what he did. He'll sit there and wing it around on those short and intermediate routes all day long for you, and then he'll make the ridiculous mistake. But he still had huge numbers, had a good year, and because that's a very quarterback-friendly team, even without great receivers. It's a great situation for a quarterback.
When we come back, we'll take your thoughts on this discussion. Who would you consider to be the favorite in the AFC South? Is it the Titans or is it the Colts? Let us know on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Talking Tennessee Titans, taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Who should be considered the favorite in the AFC South heading into the 2021 season? Should it be the Titans or should it be the Colts? John Clayton has said the Colts. Joe Rexrode says the Titans. I say the Titans, but I think it's pretty close. And I'm interested to see what the people think on this because there have been a variety of different opinions on the Titans offseason. Some people love the moves that they've made on the defensive side of the ball. Some people hate the moves that they've made on the defensive side of the ball. Let's go to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Chris texting in says, let the Colts be the favorite. Nashville teams do better as underdogs anyways. What do you think of that? Now, to your point.
They will be.
They will be. Like, I think when people and media members vote on the AFC South and they determine who the favorite's going to be once these season predictions come around in, mid to late August, I think the Colts will get more love than the Titans will.
FanDuel has the Colts as the favorite right now.
Yep.
At plus 105, and then the Titans at plus 120.
Okay, that's pretty close.
I mean, last year, I don't remember the number, but I remember actually being a bit stunned by my coworkers at The Athletic. I think there were like three of us who picked the Titans to win the division. And I was like, I guess I'm just the big homer here, but what are y'all looking at? Titans won the division. Now, it was close, and it could have gone the other way. And they traded wins on each other's home fields, and the Titans' win there was aided by people missing, but whatever. I mean, I think people are a little bit dismissing that the Titans have like the best running back in the league.
Yeah, there is that.
Does that matter at all or not?
It mattered in that game against the Colts that you're referring to. He's pretty good in that game.
Yeah, they seem to have trouble with him. I mean, and again, they didn't have DeForest Buckner in that game. Pretty big guy to not have, but I feel like. I think the Colts also just have I think there's just a respect for the organization that they have.
I would agree.
That I guess the Titans don't have. Well, league-wide.
Yeah, and I think people love Frank Reich as a coach, Chris Ballard, the GM. I mean, look, I'm not saying they're wrong. I think there's a lot to like there. But I think, to me, it comes down to quarterback. Like, I think the rosters are pretty close. I would probably even give the overall roster a slight edge to the Colts. But to me, the quarterback, I feel a lot better about Ryan Tannehill. Like, even if you get a good version of Carson Wentz, I still feel better about Tannehill. That's just me. I could be wrong.
Also, the Titans have a better receiver.
Yeah, they do.
Period, than anyone the Colts have.
So I think a bigger question in this is what version of Carson Wentz do you get versus the version of Phillip Rivers that we saw last year? Because Phillip Rivers sucked. So unless it was that Thursday night against the Titans when he went dink, 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 dink.
He did do that.
Like if Carson Wentz is better than what Phillip Rivers was last year, even if it's not great, how much of a difference does that make?
Well, I think it makes a huge difference, but I think there's also a chance that Carson Wentz could be worse than Phillip Rivers was last year. Like I think he is so all over the map in terms of what we could see from Carson Wentz that it's really hard to determine what the Colts have. Like I think Carson Wentz, his ceiling is a pretty good quarterback in this league. I also think if he's anything like the Carson Wentz we saw last year, the Colts are in trouble. I mean, it's going to be hard to win that way.
Yeah, the floor is low, along with the ceiling being, I think, higher than Rivers. But again, you just said he sucked. 68%, 4,169 yards, 24 touchdowns, 11 picks, 7 per attempt. 11 and 5.
I would say those numbers are better than what the eye test showed.
Yeah, I would agree, but I would say that doesn't suck.
Okay. I was maybe a little too harsh, but he wasn't good.
He wasn't great.
Poor thing's Phillip Rivers.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy.
His 15 children.
And a lot of trash talk.
Yes.
But, I mean, to me, if you told a Colts fan or anyone in the Colts organization, Jim Irsay, hey, you're going to get 4,200 yards, 24 TDs, you're going to go 11-5. Yes.
Yeah.
And yet, I think to Porth's point, then why aren't they signing up for more of that, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, there's limitations to that. I do think that Wentz, best version of him, healthy, rejuvenated, with all these other things around him. We talk about quarterbacks and the support of the passing game. Like your guy, Aaron Rodgers. We talk about how they don't have offensive line and running game will always matter a ton to quarterbacks. And again, when Mariota was at his best, they didn't have, they had this old stodgy offense everybody's talking about. But guess what? They ran the freaking ball and they blocked. They had
who's their number one receiver?
Conklin and Lewan.
Rashard Matthews.
Yeah, exactly. They had Kendall Wright out there and Rashard Matthews and Tajay Sharp, but they blocked. They had Conklin and Lewan, and they had DeMarco Murray and a rookie who was okay too.
Not bad.
Kind of helped Mariota play the best football of his career, period. So that's the hope for Carson Wentz.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Samantha texting in saying clearly it's the Titans at 1, the Colts at 2, the Jags at 3, and the Texans at 4. I mean, if I had to number it right now, that's probably the order I would go at this point. I would have the Jags over the Texans. It's pretty amazing. They won one game last year.
You can only go up from one.
I know. But doesn't it just feel like an absolute disaster of a season is about to happen for Houston? Like, I don't see any path to, like, more than 3 wins. They're going to be really bad.
Bill O'Brien trades other draft picks away. Then they draft a QB who, I don't know, Davis Mills. I mean, they already have a stopgap quarterback in Tyrod Taylor, so I don't even know. Although I will say that Houston, like if Houston went like 6-10 and the Jags went 4-12, that wouldn't shock me either.
4-13.
Shoot. God dang it. You're right. So, okay. So if Houston goes 6-11 or 5-12, you have to do an either or every time with these records.
I know.
Stupid NFL.
I would go 5-12.
Hate you.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Keith texting in. Can't wait to see Rodgers and Jones this fall in two-tone blue. Yesterday, my neighbor saw Aaron and Julio down by the schoolyard playing. Nice. Let's get those things going.
Well, Paul Simon.
Let's get that started.
I like the Paul Simon reference.
Keith says,
I'm the only one who got it.
Bring me the Rexrode. Keith's very good at this. The Rexrode.
Rex Rodgers.
What if they traded for both Aaron Rodgers and Julio?
Yeah.
That's what he's
giving that any thought?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rodgers, Julio, AJ, Derrick Henry. That's a Madden team right there.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Kevin from Clarksville texting in. You guys are missing the huge favorites this year, and that's the Jacksonville freaking Jaguars. You got Trevor Luscious Locks Lawrence coming to town. Timmy the Real Deal Tebow getting jacked, ready to take over the tight end position. DJ Shark, Marvin Jones, and Urban Meyer are going to take over the AFC South. Keith, very confident.
Kind of ugly, though.
Yeah. Keith, very confident in the Jacksonville Jaguars. I like that. Or, excuse me, Kevin. I like that.
I'll tell you what. When's the last time Jacksonville was must-see NFL TV? Like, I can't wait to see
1999.
Yeah, like Brunell to Keenan McCardle.
Yes.
I mean,
David Garrard.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. God. I mean,
he's pretty good against the Titans.
Hey, we've talked about with John Robinson tenure. So John, in 2016, Mariota's best year, all that stuff, right? I mean, they were 5-27. They get to 9-7, and if not for totally flopping in Jacksonville, they go 10-6 that year and win the division.
Yeah.
We're gonna say there's no chance the Jags just complete. I mean, in the NFL, it
Trevor
happens.
Lawrence is as good as people say he is. Why can't they be competitive right from the jump? They do have Marvin Jones.
He's kind of ugly, though. Stop.
I think Joe is very unfair to Trevor Lawrence. I think he's a good-looking man.
He's a professional. Hey, let me tell you, the context there that's missing is I'm uglier, okay? I am uglier, all right? So I just want that out there. He's a pro now. It's fine.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Got a texture that says, Jolio Rexrode. Now the combination of Julio Jones and Aaron Rodgers. Jolio Rexrode. I like that.
Amazing.
It's pretty good. Chris on the text line says, is Poor saying that Rivers is a trash dump?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Taking the John Clayton playbook, going trash dump.
Whenever I watched Phillip Rivers play football these last few years, I thought exactly of a trash dump.
Oh, okay.
You think about last year, there were a couple games where if he just doesn't the Jacksonville loss and the Cleveland loss. And if he doesn't just throw the killer interception, it's a 13-3 team.
And the Steelers lost.
Yeah, the Steelers lost. They came all the way back.
That's right.
I mean, all the way back.
They're 14-2 team.
And then he throws the death pick, and the Steelers get it done.
And if they were healthy against the Titans, they would have been 15-1.
God, we missed the Super Bowl champs.
We did.
Phillip Rivers.
Phillip Rivers.
That's the problem.
Missed opportunity.
That really is. Like, Phillip Rivers, heck of a career, but
a lot of untimely interceptions.
Right. I mean, it's happened many times. So they moved on. And more of a risk. More of a risk with Wentz, but more of an upside, too.
When we come back, there was some more news yesterday on the Aaron Rodgers situation in Green Bay surrounding the reporting of Adam Schefter, and it's got at least one member here on the show holding his nose up a little bit. We'll talk about that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, live from the Wholesale Link Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com. You're on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Hour number 2 of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth are with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. We've got Call Your Shot Friday coming up later this hour at 7:45. We'll take your called shots on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Turron Davenport coming up at 8 o'clock. We'll get into the Titans with him, get into this Aaron Rodgers saga as well. Terry Crisp at 8:30. Jamie Watson, Nashville SC TV analyst, coming your way at 9 o'clock. And then weekend winners at 9:30. This is the first time, Joe, maybe in all season long, I'm looking forward to weekend winners. I actually had a good week last week.
See, here we go.
4-2 with my lock.
Coming on back.
Coming back strong here in the competition. So that coming up at 9:30 here on the show. Joe, obviously we've spent a lot of time since the NFL draft talking about Aaron Rodgers and what his future is going to look like, either with the Green Bay Packers or what's looking more and more likely somewhere else besides the Green Bay Packers. And even yesterday, threw out the possibility of the Titans with the article that Bill Barnwell came out with and the trade proposal that he had with Aaron Rodgers landing to the Titans, Ryan Tannehill back to Green Bay in exchange for a couple of first-round picks as well that the Titans would have to send the Packers' way. Look, I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's very unlikely that the Titans would be a destination, almost to the point of 0% that it would be a destination for the Tennessee Titans and for Aaron Rodgers. But some interesting stuff coming out yesterday regarding the original report of Aaron Rodgers and his feud with the Green Bay Packers. As we know, leading up to the first round of the NFL Draft, Adam Schefter kind of dropped this bombshell, and that was the large point of discussion heading into the NFL Draft. And Adam Schefter was on, I believe it was with Dan Patrick, discussing this and what it was like leading up to this process and how he came across this information in this report. Here's what Adam Schefter from ESPN had to say.
You know, Dan, the funny part about it is that I've heard people say, oh, Aaron Rodgers wanted that out before the draft. Mm-hmm. I can assure you Aaron Rodgers did not want that out before the draft. I've had people say the Green Bay Packers planted that. It was a very pro-Packer story.
Yeah.
I can assure you the Green Bay Packers didn't plant that. When people guess at where stories come from, more often than not, they're usually wrong. And in this case, they're wrong. This was an accumulation all during the offseason of just listening to people talk and observing. And if we go back to the NFC Championship game that the Green Bay Packers lost at home, did we not hear Aaron Rodgers after that game talk about his level of unhappiness, if you will, uncertainty for the future? Just go back and listen to that press conference, and it sounds almost like he's saying goodbye to Green Bay. And so your antenna's up, and I'm just telling you, throughout the course of the offseason, there was rarely a week that went by where I didn't hear something about Aaron Rodgers. And on draft day, there's a report that morning from Paul Allen out in Minneapolis that the 49ers made a draft offer, which they didn't make an offer. They never made an offer. And other people are saying that the 49ers called. And I said, how long till it gets out that Aaron Rodgers wants out of Green Bay? Is it next week? Is it next when he doesn't show to the OTAs? Is it next month when he isn't? It's going to come out. What does it matter if it comes out now or next week or next month? And so
you chose to break the news on draft day.
That is absolutely accurate. Correct.
But it wasn't something that you got information about.
No.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No, and there was nothing that morning that came in. All of a
Okay.
sudden said to me, yeah, he wants out. You should report this. Like it was going on all off season. You just keep hearing it. And there was more and more talk. And now there's starting to be Aaron Rodgers talk. And I said, you know what? This isn't going to wait much longer. Let's just go. It just happened to be draft day.
So that was comments made by Adam Schefter from ESPN on Dan Patrick's show. Joe, what do you think of those comments? Schefter basically saying there, this had been an accumulation of information all off season and reading reports and hearing some conversations and kind of reading the tea leaves of what's going on in Green Bay, and that draft day, he just decided to go with it because he said this is not going to stay under wraps much longer. What do you think of what Adam Schefter had to say there on with Dan Patrick?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is when I saw this yesterday, I saw a ton of reaction, which was, and largely from Packers fans, oh, so you made it up, huh? And so
they're very level-headed.
Yeah. So I'm, you and Packer, the rest of Packer Nation, is that what it's called? Is it Packer Nation?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I mean, some teams have different kind of,
Packer Nation's fine.
Packer Nation's cool with you? Okay.
Pack Nation.
Pack Nation, is that right?
That sounds better.
Cheesehead Nation? I mean, I don't know. Cheesehead Brigade?
Let's go with Packer Nation.
Cheesehead Brigade. I like that.
Yeah. That's not bad.
So, obviously, that's an overreaction. But, first of all, I love Schefter. I just thought maybe, I don't know, for whatever reason, that day. Yeah, the day when, everyone's
watching me on TV.
Yeah, looking at the NFL.
Yes.
I think that's strategy. And also, his tweet did say, sources said Thursday. So, the tweet about it was at least inaccurately framed.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's not like he didn't have sources telling him this. It's not like the reporting isn't accurate. And it's not like we haven't heard from a whole bunch of other people about this. I know that day, I know for a fact that some people who cover that team were really upset with Aaron Rodgers because it was like, and there was some back and forth to the extent of like, why?
Yeah.
Why today? So I guess, that was one of my reactions was like, so Aaron Rodgers is trying to co-op draft day. So I owe him an apology for that. It was just that Schefter decided he was going to drop the bomb that day.
So is he more likable now in your book that you know that it wasn't him responsible for this information?
Yeah, bring him to Nashville.
Okay, I'm just checking.
The red flags are all cleared.
Fourth, what do you think of this that Schefter's thrown out there? I believe before the show you called it a little fishy. What do you mean by that?
Well, so some of the reports that have stemmed from this report from Schefter are that the Packers are now scrambling to find veteran quarterbacks. But when you listen to Schefter talk, he's like, oh, well, this is something that's just been accumulating all offseason, and I just decided it and just so happened to be draft day that I put it out there. And if the Packers knew this all offseason, why wouldn't they have been trying to get a veteran quarterback if Aaron Rodgers is actually done in Green Bay?
I think this is jarring to them, too, in my opinion.
So you think Schefter's report was a surprise to them?
I think maybe the extent of it. I mean, right. Like, of course, they knew they've had issues with him. I'm sure Gutekunst knows that when he's not returning his texts, But, like, for example, our guy Bob McGinn had the report. Did you see this the other day?
Oh, yeah. Jerry Krause?
Yeah, the Schefter or the Rodgers text thing with teammates calling him Jerry Krause. I mean, stuff like that. I'm sure the team didn't know how much trash he's talking about the GM behind his back, right? So I'm sure they knew that it was an issue. But, like, if you're the team and this comes out, I know that Schefter said, well, this isn't from the – I mean, Schefter's like, it's not from the camp. It's not from it's not from the Packers. Okay, so who the heck is it from?
Right.
I mean, if you're the team and this comes out, then you have
Shailene Woodley.
Yeah, but but you have to think, oh, so Rodgers wants this out there.
Yeah.
And I still think there's an element of that. Whether it wasn't that day, fine. But at some point, he's like, yeah, go, you can go with it. Or his camp said that. So I hear what you're saying, but I'll bet you that the Packers didn't know how dire it was until all this stuff came out.
Well, if they didn't, it's their own fault. I mean, I've been talking about this for a year. I mean, this is very easy to see coming. I don't know how they couldn't have seen this coming after some of the decisions that they made. Look, I don't really like the way Schefter handled this based on what he said there with Dan Patrick. That doesn't sound like the way to go about doing this. It's also pretty obvious at this point that it's all true. Like, if this was just a bunch of crap, Aaron Rodgers would have said something by now. Like, he's not letting all this sit out there.
He's allowed to talk.
Yeah, I mean, he would have said something by now. I think there's pretty clearly some frustration. And look, there's been some more follow-up reporting. I mean, Thursday night, the night of the first round of the draft, I mean, the Packers basically admitted it. They were like, our relationship needs some work right now. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious they're in a bad spot. It is interesting hearing Schefter's comments on that, on the way he went about handling it, because it doesn't sound like anybody said anything to him on the day of the draft, and that's just when he decided to go with this. Again, I'm not saying the report's wrong, because it's obviously not, but it was the interesting timing there from Adam Schefter.
Yeah, and I can't think of too many. I'm sure there are other situations, but typically the Schefters, Rappaports of the world, the Wojs and Shamses, typically they pretty much react in real time to stuff, and they're trying to beat each other. It's interesting that he made the point, I figured this is going to come out, soon enough. Usually if you get something where it's like, okay, this is real and this is a top source saying it, you're rushing to it, and you're assuming Rappaport's getting the same thing, and they compete with each other in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, and
so this is a little bit more of a like you said, reading tea leaves, accumulation of things. And yes, he did it on draft day to get the most bang for the buck on the report.
And I do wonder, like, where the information comes from, because, I mean, I don't know what to believe with Aaron Rodgers. Like, I said this yesterday. He's very, very concerned about what his public image is, and he was at the Kentucky Derby, and NBC Sports tried to interview him, and he didn't want any part of it, said he was disappointed that this came out with the Packers. Is he really disappointed, or was he just saying that? I don't know. I mean, A.J. Hawk is one of his best friends, and A.J. Hawk goes on the Pat McAfee show every day, and A.J. Hawk wants nothing to do with this conversation around Aaron Rodgers. So I don't know. Like, if he really wants stuff out there, there's an outlet right there that you would think would be all over this with A.J. Hawk especially considering Aaron Rodgers is on the show all the time. So I don't know what he wants out and what he doesn't, but if the report had anything that wasn't true in there, I think you would have probably heard from Aaron Rodgers by now.
Well, it actually now makes more sense on that front to me, because initially with all that, I was like, come on, you put this out there Thursday. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then so he actually, I'm sure, was annoyed, like, why today? Why right now?
Yeah.
I mean, does it help Aaron Rodgers for all this to be out there? I mean, it makes them look worse.
Yeah.
Right? So, but
I don't know if it hurts him or helps him either way.
I don't think
but
it really matters.
It's annoying probably at this point because
Right.
there's nothing. That's what I've said from the start. Like, nothing's going to happen until at least after June 1st. Like, it would be a $38 million cap hit for the Packers. Nothing's happening until then. So all this, like even the day of, all this draft day discussion, like, are they about to trade Aaron Rodgers to Denver on the first round of the draft? No, they're not, unless they're really stupid at their jobs, because it's a $38 million cap hit. So nothing's going to happen until after June 1st. That's probably the annoying thing is, and John Clayton talked about this a little bit yesterday too, it's probably going to be like into the season before you see anything resolved, because I doubt very seriously Green Bay is just throwing their hands up right now and saying, all right, I guess there's no way we can fix this. We'll just go in and it's Jordan Love's time.
Right.
Which makes this even more frustrating. But yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because they could certainly say, okay, you want to eat 30 mil? Okay. But then again, he probably can be okay, right? I mean,
he'd be fine.
What's Jeopardy paying?
He'd be pretty fine. When the Preds have a weekday game this season, it's your chance to participate in Preds Pick to Click, brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka. If you guess a Preds player that scores a goal in the game that night, you win a prize pack. The next chance to participate is Monday morning at 8:45. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion on Aaron Rodgers, including some interesting thoughts yesterday from John Clayton on where Rodgers could end up and when that could happen. We'll talk about it next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
This hour of Robby and Rexrode is brought to you by Train. Get a great deal this spring on a new Train heating and cooling system. At Train, they test so it runs. Visit traininfo.com to find your local dealer and learn more. It's hard to stop a train.
Celebrate Mom this Mother's Day with a gift of a 1.5-hour picnic-themed style photo shoot with Mackenzie Lee Photography at Centennial Park. Picnic setup, sips, and snacks will be included. Not only will you get to enjoy a fun and beautiful park picnic with your family, but you'll also receive 60-plus digital photos to remember it. Go to the Game Nashville contest page and enter to win today. Mother's Day coming up on Sunday, so looking forward to that. Go to the Game Nashville contest page and enter to win that today. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, on Twitch as well, discussing Aaron Rodgers and the reporting from Adam Schefter as well. Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Got a texter that says there's a possibility that the Packers GM wanted Schefter to wait until draft day to see what teams would offer the GM when the pressure was on. I don't know. I mean, it seems to me, if you believe what the Packers are saying, they have no desire whatsoever to trade Aaron Rodgers. Now, that may ultimately change, and their hand may get forced at the end of this when it comes to what happens and whether or not Rodgers decides to show up at any point with the Green Bay Packers and play football. He's made it clear, apparently, that he's not going to show up and that he's not going to play with Green Bay. So that may change, but I don't think that this came from the Packers or Brian Gutekunst or anything like that. Like it seems to me they are, at this point, even though it may be too late, trying to do everything they can possibly do to try to keep him in the fold. To me, isn't it disingenuous to say there is no chance we would trade this guy when you basically set it up to be done with him pretty soon here? Yeah, it is.
I mean, come on. And then it's like, oh, crap, he's really good. We forgot. We didn't realize he's this good. That's all. I mean, to me, that's all. It's just like the Texans before the stuff happened with Deshaun Watson. Like, no, we are not. You're just throwing that out there publicly. Try to have as much leverage as you can have, but it may just have to happen this way. Another interesting thing about this, Robby, yesterday that I found is that there's like a lot of, I think, Titans fans, but even like some media who were just like, "Oh no way!" on the idea. Now again,
which just is mind-boggling to me.
Like I don't think that it's realistic. Just like you said, I mean, this is Bill Barnwell putting stuff out. First of all, if you're upset that we're having these off-season discussions about some fantasy trade, come on. I mean, it's an interesting conversation, and it's not like zero chance. I mean, there's somebody I think that's probably going to have him that doesn't have him now. I agree. Like, I don't think that he's coming here. But it's interesting. Like, so I'm reading, like, Gentry Estes has a column, making the case for Tannehill, which, again, you could call it Tannehill disrespect, and that's kind of how he frames it. I have a lot of respect for Tannehill. I think the Titans have a great situation at quarterback. We're
literally talking about the league MVP and one of the 5 best quarterbacks to ever play the game.
And to me, there is a difference from a year ago. And the difference is, I mean, honestly, I saw Tom Brady's last game with the Patriots live from the press box, and I thought he was done. So, I mean, good for him for kind of being rejuvenated in Tampa Bay. But the talent level physically at this point is different with Aaron Rodgers than it is with Tom Brady. I'm sorry, it just is. And I think Aaron Rodgers comes in, you're talking about still right now as a passer right up there in the top 2 or 3 in the league of elite throwers of the football. And he's younger too. He's younger than Brady. So that's where the difference is for me. So I would say yes. But, yeah, there's a lot of backlash to that whole idea here.
I mean, it has been interesting. Again, it's not going to happen. But there are Titans fans that when you hear this discussion, even if it was a possibility, they would be like, no, we'll just keep Tannehill. That to me is amazing. And some people pointed out, giving up 2 first-round picks is too much in terms of the currency that Bill Barnwell threw out there. I think that's ridiculous. To get Aaron Rodgers, it's not too much to go get Aaron Rodgers if he makes your team that much better immediately. Again, I don't think it's going to happen. But I was kind of blown away yesterday with some of the responses on this show. You mentioned the article that Gentry Estes from the Tennessean put out there as well. I saw it all over the place on social media about how many Titans fans are just like, nope, I don't want Aaron Rodgers. Don't want that guy. It's just amazing to me.
No, I agree. I mean, so again, Gentry. I always like Gentry's columns. I mean, he points out here, no other quarterback in the NFL is so thoroughly underrated. Talking about Tannehill, and I would agree with that. He also says that all the Green Bay stuff reflects terribly on Rodgers. Now, again, I think he has a hand in this, but I've never been a huge Rodgers fan.
Quite frankly, that's people that don't watch Green Bay that they can't see this coming. This is about 2% on Rodgers. It's about 98% on the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to take his side on this. You are right there, and you have a chance. Get a player who makes a difference for your team, and that might be the player that puts you over the top. And you draft his replacement.
Yeah, and trade up to do it. And it's not just that. I mean, there's been all sorts of decisions that have been made that have led to this. I mean, this is 100% on the Green Bay Packers. So it's just been interesting to me to see what the reaction has looked like from Titans fans. But it does seem like at some point, with the way this has been trending, Aaron Rodgers is going to end up somewhere else besides Green Bay. And John Clayton was on with Darren Donick and Chase yesterday to discuss that. What's it going to look like for Aaron Rodgers? When could a trade happen? And where could he end up? Here's what John Clayton had to say.
How for real is it, John? Do you think, honestly, he gets moved this offseason?
Not off-season, no. I think it's going to be more during the season because you go back to Carson Palmer. They didn't move him to the middle of October. And so what happened was that the Raiders lose their starting quarterback, and now they have an opening. But when you look at it right now, you only have really two teams that would be in the mix to do something because obviously, we can talk about Bill Barnwell saying that Tennessee would be in the mix, but they do have Ryan Tannehill, and can they take the cap hit to be able to move that and then be able to take the draft choice hit? But I think it's Denver and Washington. More likely Denver because with the no-trade clause he has in his contract, he probably wants to pick the team he goes to. I know his fiancée is in Boulder, Colorado, so I think in the end, if it's going to be a trade, it'll be a trade in October, and then he can go to the Denver Broncos.
So that was John Clayton discussing what could happen with Aaron Rodgers, saying maybe it's October before a trade gets executed. Kind of going back to the Carson Palmer situation, Rodgers and Palmer had the same agent, David Dunn, in the mix here. Could it be October? And the Denver Broncos seem to be a very popular destination for Aaron Rodgers in this whole discussion. It's out west. His fiancée at the moment has a house in Boulder, Colorado, and it just makes sense in terms of the Broncos really don't have any answer at quarterback right now. They've got the room to do it, and apparently veteran quarterbacks like John Elway, like going out there. So that does seem to be, I guess, the most likely destination if a trade were to occur.
Yeah, Elway can't evaluate young quarterbacks, but he's able to bring in guys that everyone knows are really good. So maybe this could be just another example of Denver rallying up with a Hall of Famer late in his career.
I'm interested to see, Clayton threw out October as kind of a timetable there for a midseason type trade. I'm interested to see if it goes on that long. Also, there have been discussions of if it doesn't get resolved in Green Bay that Aaron Rodgers will just retire and just retire that way and I guess come back at some point. Didn't Carson Palmer technically retire during this whole thing?
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yep. And then he resurfaces.
Yeah.
But then when he resurfaced, he was still a property of the Bengals.
Right.
And that's when the Bengals traded him to the Raiders.
Right. There's been this idea that Rodgers is just going to retire and go host Jeopardy full time. I don't necessarily buy that. I think he still wants to play football, and he wants to be a quarterback somewhere. And I think
you would hope so.
If he wanted to, he could probably do both. Everybody just assumes that he's going to get the Jeopardy job. He did a good job. I don't know that he's going to be their first choice as a full-time Jeopardy host in all this either. He's fine, but I don't know if the Jeopardy people are like, yep, all right, Aaron Rodgers, he's our guy.
Yeah, I don't know either. He seems fine. You got the built-in fame there, but maybe there could be a better host. I don't know. The whole Jeopardy angle is did not
anticipate that being a part of this discussion when we got to this point.
So real quick, I'm picking on Gentry a little bit. So Gentry says, the Titans are lucky they have a quarterback who's really good and no drama accompanying him. Why would they mortgage their future to create some? Would you be creating drama I mean, you'd be creating the biggest story in the league by bringing Aaron Rodgers here. You'd have just like with Brady, you'd have a total sideshow.
Yeah.
But is Rodgers coming in here and all of a sudden he's just going to be like, middle finger up to management and teammates and stuff?
No, I mean, he's a very popular teammate.
The answer is, why would you do it? Because you think you're winning the Super Bowl with him. That's the reason.
Yeah. I mean, look, no disrespect to Ryan Tannehill. It's not even really all that close. It's a clear upgrade with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Ryan Tannehill is very good. Aaron Rodgers is great. He is a great quarterback.
Tannehill doesn't deserve to be in the tier 3 like we have him at the Athletic. That's stupid, and that means some GMs in this league are dumb, or at least they just don't. They don't watch everybody or whatever. They're being lazy with their evaluation. But the tier 1 is like Mahomes, Rodgers. It's not Brady.
No, it's like Mahomes and Rodgers. They're like on a tier by themselves.
I mean Watson.
Yeah,
Wilson. Are they in there too? I guess maybe.
Maybe. I mean, I would still probably put it Mahomes and Rodgers.
But Tannehill is tier 2, and he's very good, and they should be thrilled with their quarterback. But there's still a difference. And if that gets you to win a Super Bowl, mortgage your future.
When we come back, we'll continue the discussion on the Titans, get into the Rashad Weaver situation as well, with a new wrinkle to it. That coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5. The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth, they're with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee, discussing the Titans, taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. By the way, Call Your Shot Friday coming up at 7:45 as well. So we need your bold predictions in the world of sports. Joe, we've talked about the Rashad Weaver situation that came to light earlier this week and the alleged incident that took place in Pittsburgh, he being charged with 1 count of simple assault. And we've talked about, what should the Titans have known? What did they know? What did they not know? Did other teams around the league know this about Rashad Weaver? And that's why he fell as far as he did in the draft. You've had some discussions with people over the last few days regarding this incident. What have you found out? What's come to light in these discussions?
Right as you asked me, I'm so close to sneezing. So I may have to mute myself here any minute.
It's okay.
Yeah, so, the Weaver thing has been interesting this week, obviously, and we've talked on the show about Paul Kuharsky and his at paulkuharsky.com and his reporting. I think he's the first person to put out there that other teams had some kind of knowledge of this. He said he talked to scouts from 3 different teams. At some point, I think we're going to hear from the Titans. I mean, to me, one of the obvious things you do as a team in a situation like this is try to find out what your peers knew. I mean, most of these people are friends with each other. There are people who have friends in every organization. I mean, that's one thing that I think you do if you're the Titans. Try to figure out what others knew, how they knew, what could we have done? Was it just purely just a terrible break and you chalk it up to that? Do you make any staff adjustments? All that stuff. But so for me, through media, a couple different media people, I've gotten information that there were some teams, or at least a couple teams, that had some knowledge, of an issue with Weaver. Now, are these the same teams that Kuharsky have? I don't know. So I'm not saying that. I'm not saying add it to make it 5, maybe the same, 2 of the same 3 teams. But again, to the whole point of that, I understand, and I know there was some screaming in the town, media screaming at each other. We probably don't do enough of that. We should
Scream a little more.
You scream at each other a little more. I agree with anyone who says, well, anonymous source, scout, there's misinformation around the draft for sure, but tell me what the incentive is, one, to lie about this after the fact. Doesn't help you at all. I mean, if you absolutely hate John Robinson or hate the Titans, if you're like Chris Ballard, or something, you want to make them look bad. Yeah, I don't know. That's possible, but you got to keep in mind that, especially reporters who, and I'm talking about this on my end too, and Kuharsky fits this bill, reporters who have covered this league for decades, I mean, they're not taking stuff from people who might be lying to them on a whim.
Right.
I mean, that's what years and decades of source building yields. So it's really unrealistic. And to me, it's almost tinfoil hat territory to think that people are just lying about this. All that said as well, I mean, I think that it's a bad timing for the Titans. I don't know exactly what the answer is. You probably aren't going to have another situation like this. But when you have what happened last year, even though it's nothing like this situation, it just raises the stakes on covering every base with every possible player on your board. And so I'd love to know what the adjustment will be for the Titans. And I'm not saying necessarily a personnel adjustment, but a process adjustment.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, I think that's going to be something that you're going to have to address at some point if you're the Titans. And I also wonder, what happens from here? I was on with Darren Donick and Chase the other day, and they asked me, what percentage would I give, Rashad Weaver being on the roster this year when it comes around. I mean, we'll have to wait and see, obviously, what plays out with this situation legally here. I mean, I put the percentage at 70%. I think there's a good chance that it'll work through this and that he'll be here. But I don't know. Like, maybe this is something where you're talking about another pick that never really even sees the field for you. Like, I don't know how this is going to play out. I would find that to be surprising. But what would you say to that? Like, do you think there are chances that he may not play for the Titans?
A chance, but I think I might go higher than 70. You know, one interesting question here, and I don't know the answer, but is there any video footage of the situation? Now, I think that could really play a role here in how this goes. But based on the police report, well, first of all, you have witness saying punch. You have alleged victim saying push and then hit head. I mean, this reads like it's probably going to be a plea bargain, like most things are, and which is technically an admission of guilt. But if there's no new information on this, I mean, I think when you come out of this, the comment that was in the police report is going to be the thing that really prevails here, and something he's going to have to answer for. But if I had to guess, I think I'd go above 70. I think I'd probably go about 80.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, like you said, I mean, there are a lot of different factors that could change that one way or the other, but I would agree it's probably somewhere in that percentage. It is interesting because I have seen, some reaction on Twitter to Paul Kaharski's report, to what's been thrown out there of, this is just like this is the Jaguars or the Colts lying to you about, the Titans and saying they knew about it when they really didn't, just to try to make the Titans look bad. Like, I guess I understand why fans might think that way, but there's no real incentive for a Indy or a Jacksonville or anybody to do that. It's not like you're in a college recruiting battle here, like where you're on the recruiting trail and you're trying to negatively recruit against somebody.
Yeah,
it's a little different in the NFL.
That's a great point. That's a very different world. I mean, in that world, it is constant negative recruiting, yes. And it is hurt them however you can hurt them. I mean, this is the pros, and again, it's also not like it's like from the top. Okay, what are we saying? Anonymously, so there's no accountability. But what are we saying as a team? This is like a scout. This is a person in an organization who's someone in media knows well and gives them the lowdown. Again, what is that particular scout's incentive for? I really want to make the Titans look bad. I mean, I suppose if it was like one, you could say one person with an axe to grind is going to be willing to lie to a reporter who they've known for a long, long time and have shared information back and forth with that reporter. I suppose. Yeah. But even that's going out on a limb. That's not very realistic.
In terms of the media in this town yelling at each other more, we should do it a little bit more. My mother was legitimately concerned yesterday after I called your take on Tom Wilson's hit asinine. She was like, how did Joe respond to that? Was he mad? I was like, no, he's okay. It was all right.
Does your mom not know that you could kick the crap out of me?
No, I couldn't.
Oh, you don't think you beat me up?
We'll see. I don't know.
We'll see.
I would take Robby.
Oh, yeah, I'd take Robby.
He'd be minus 400 on the sports book.
I don't know if it'd be that heavy.
I do fight dirty, though.
Hey, that's all you got to do.
Be warned.
That's right. That doesn't sound great. When we come back, it's time for Call Your Shot Friday here on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. We need your bold predictions in the world of sports. 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025 on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. That's up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game.
sports weekend has arrived. You know what that means.
Shoot your shot.
It's time for Call Your Shot Friday with Robby and Rexrode on ESPN 1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It is time for Call Your Shot Friday here on Robby and Rexrode. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Port. The reflexes are strong here to begin the segment here on the program. We need your takes, your thoughts, your bold predictions in the world of sports on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. It could be with the Titans. It could be with the Predators over the weekend, Nashville SC. Aaron Rodgers, everything on the table in the world of sports on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Joe Rexrode, do we have the results from last week, or have we had a technical malfunction?
I don't know what happened last week. So, I guess like with this file, I typed in the Call Your Shots. I typed in the weekend winners. And maybe when I close the file, I hit Don't Save.
Ooh.
Because I got nothing. I got
my two from last week. I said Philip Forsberg would return and have at least 1 point. That was half right. He returned. He did not have 1 point.
So you got half a point.
Got half a point on that one. I also said Josh Palmer would be selected in the third round, which I believe he was.
You didn't say by team? You just said third round?
No, I just said third round.
That's good.
Yeah.
You remember yours?
Team was too difficult.
I had one of the Moores being drafted by the Titans, either Rondé or Elijah.
It's a tough one.
Missed that. But I did say that Preds Stars was going to overtime.
Yeah, he did get that one.
Okay. You guys remember mine?
No. Do you remember yours?
Not at all. That's why I write things down.
Dig up last week's weekend winners and then compute the win-loss?
Well, we have figured ours out. We need you to figure yours out honestly. We both went 4-2 with our lock.
Yeah.
I don't think you did as well.
No, I wasn't as good last week. but I can't remember my picks last week.
You might have to dig it up.
What are we doing?
That's why we have audio record of everything. Right?
That's right. We got to go back and figure it out.
You're not busy, are you? Come on.
That's right. So let's start.
We're a bunch of idiots.
Yes, that's for sure. Let's start this edition of Call Your Shot Friday with what we always do. Ryan Porth leads us off on Call Your Shot Friday. Porth, your called shots for the week.
All right, let's start with some soccer action tomorrow. Nashville SC has started the season with 3 straight draws. They are 0-0-3.
They are.
And they are going to be 1-0-3.
Okay.
After tomorrow.
It's taking on New England tomorrow.
The Revolution.
Yes.
So they will revolutionize the win column with 3 points.
Very
tomorrow.
Nicely done.
So calling the shot that they win. Also, the Preds are going to beat Carolina in one of these 2 games by 2 goals or more.
Oh, a multi-goal win for the Nashville
They're going to
Predators.
spank the Canes in one of these 2 games.
Okay, I like that.
And then Aaron Rodgers will be under center for the Green Bay Packers in Week 1.
Really? Look, I hope you're right. It doesn't look great right now. That is what I would classify as a called shot right now. It's in that territory.
Those are that's a called shot for sure.
Yes, it is. Is that it?
That's it.
Wow.
3.
Ryan Port taking the light route this week. I like that. Joe Rexrode, your called shots for the week.
Okay. First of all, I'm going to go with the Titans will end up with a new TE1. His name will be Zach Ertz.
Zach Ertz with the Titans.
Zach Ertz.
So when does this happen? Just before the season, what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
That's my training camp call.
Okay. I like that.
Make sure you save that document for 3 months from now.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, you guys are going to remember this, right?
Yes.
I count on you to remember things. Is this really a called shot? It's I think it's the most likely thing, and it may be yours too, but since you let me go first.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers will be a Denver Bronco to close his career, and he will win a Super Bowl with the Denver Broncos.
God.
So that's a double shot.
That's going to make me very sad.
From Starbucks?
Sure. We like caffeine on this show.
We do.
And the Nashville Predators will need to win or need to get points against Carolina because Dallas is going to get a point tonight and lose in overtime. The Preds are going to win the playoffs. The Preds are going to get into the
They're going to win the cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a shot. Get into the playoffs by virtue of a late goal from Philip Forsberg to force overtime. They will lose in overtime Saturday, but that late goal to force overtime will make them a playoff team.
Okay.
That will be the point.
All right. I will start.
Very specific.
The Nashville Predators will clinch a playoff berth tonight. Tonight, the Nashville Predators will be in the playoffs. Tampa Bay will beat Dallas in regulation, and the game tomorrow against Carolina, essentially for the Predators at that point, means nothing. However, Pekka Rinne will start in goal tomorrow. After this happens for the Predators, he will be the starter in net tomorrow for the Predators against Carolina, and he has a shutout against the Hurricanes.
Wow.
It's going to be a storybook ending to the season for Pekka Rinne. He will shut out the Carolina Hurricanes, and the Predators will win the game on Saturday night too. So not only do you get the help you need tonight, I think the Predators, with Pekka, beat Carolina tomorrow at Bridgestone Arena. What do you think about that?
Well, it's a good shot, but is that it's just a storybook ending to the season?
I think that is the last time Pekka Rinne plays at Bridgestone Arena.
Okay, there you go. So the shot that's like a triple shot.
You just left the door open for him to only play road games.
Well,
next
that
season.
is true. I did do that. I just said Bridgestone Arena. That is the last time we see Pekka Rinne play. Let's put it that way. Because I think if he starts Saturday, you can't just leave Saros off that long, right? Like, you've got to put Saros back in there on Monday. Would be my guess. They're not leaving him off for a week and a half.
Oh, I would definitely think so.
So I think Pekka starts tomorrow.
Well, it wouldn't be a week and a half. It'd probably just be a week.
That's still too long, though, isn't it?
Well, when are they going to start?
Friday or Saturday, right?
Probably Saturday or Sunday.
So he played Wednesday. So it would be a week and a half if he doesn't play Monday or Saturday.
That's true.
Well, I'm under the assumption that he would, if Pekka plays Monday, then Saros plays tomorrow night no matter what.
Well, I'm saying Pekka plays Saturday tomorrow night. So if you don't, I'm saying you have to play Saros Monday because they're not having Pekka play both of the next two.
Yeah.
Let's hop on that bike,
Let's all agree.
So that is our edition of Call Your Shot Friday. Let's go to our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Josh on the text line says, my called shot, Dallas loses in regulation tonight. Juice starts tomorrow. Pekka shuts out Carolina on Monday at home to end his career. So a slightly different variation from Josh. He says Saros tomorrow, Pekka on Monday, and Pekka gets the shutout on Monday.
I love the Hollywood endings that people are calling it. Like, what if Pekka, has that game and he gives up 6 goals?
I don't know. Does he have to come back?
I mean, he still gets a standing O, right?
Yeah. I mean, does he have to come back and play next year if that's the last one?
That means he's not retiring.
And he's like, all right, I can't go out that way.
Yeah.
Could be. I don't know. Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jeff texting in 2 doozies here. So let's do these one at a time. Number 1 from Jeff. I don't know when the called shot Friday is. It's right now. But Mahomes will not come back from that turf toe. He will never be the same. They will never make it past the divisional round again with Patrick Mahomes.
Yikes.
What do you think of that?
Won't come back from turf toe?
That's what Jeff said.
That's a shot. I hope he's wrong.
Well, that's what he was playing with in the Super Bowl. He still looked pretty good.
Yeah, he's making like underhanded ropes.
Yeah,
while going
floating
down.
through the air.
Yeah.
That's a shot. Look, that's what we encourage here on Call Your Shot Friday. I like that.
It's a very morbid one.
The second one from Jeff is Rodgers to the Steelers for the next 2 first-rounders and a second-rounder next year, and David Putney. So Jeff has got Aaron Rodgers ending up on the Pittsburgh Steelers. What do you think of that?
Hadn't heard much about that, but
that'd be something.
They, I mean, again, Roethlisberger is kind of more in the, what I thought about Brady. Rivers, the camp of, okay, you can clearly see the wear and tear of the years, going
Brady's
down.
aging backwards. So
all of a sudden, yes. But Rodgers that'd be a big upgrade.
Let's go back to the text line. Kyle on the text line says, my called shot is that the Preds will win both games against Carolina. So Kyle predicting back-to-back wins for the Predators against Carolina. So going from 0-5-1 to 2-5-1 immediately. I like it.
They'll be the favorite in the series.
Hey.
All of a sudden, 2-game winning streak.
Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Caleb texting in, Dallas wins, Nashville loses, and wins on Monday. Saros plays out the rest of the season here, and Pekka retires. So Caleb's saying we're not going to see Pekka Rinne because Dallas is going to stay alive. Nashville loses on Saturday, forcing a game they've got to win on Monday. They do it. Saros plays all the games, and Pekka retires after the season. So Caleb, under the mindset, we've already seen Pekka Rinne play his last game.
Which would have been which game?
I think Tampa. The shutout loss to Tampa.
The Saturday night, like 3 weeks ago?
I think so.
The 2-0 where
Sounds right.
Vasilevsky was just
I think that's the last time he's been in there.
Yeah, I think you're right.
That sounds right.
I think you're right.
Wow.
Well, don't rule out, too, if they get in, certainly you could see him then, too. I mean, we've seen Saros in a few games. I mean, on the Stanley Cup final run, we saw Saros a couple times.
Yeah.
At least a couple times, right?
And in 18.
And in 18.
And maybe in 19? Was Pekka pulled in one of those Stars games?
No, I don't think so. No.
I think he was pulled in game 4.
Maybe.
When the Stars scored like 4 goals in the first 10 minutes.
Really? Maybe.
I don't know. I remember the last game when he put a team on his back that couldn't create an offensive chance to save its life.
Yes, there was that. We'll see what happens with Pekka Rinne. Starting tonight, I think it's going to have a big influence on how this weekend goes. If the Preds are in before they even play tomorrow, probably influences some of the thinking as they move forward here. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Turron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter. That's coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, live from the Wholesaling Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com. You're on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in. Hour number 3 of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Right now talking all things Tennessee Titans, and to help us do that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter and host of Talking with TD, Turron Davenport, presented by Freedom Tire Guys. TD, what's going on, my man? How we doing?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? Everything is awesome, man. How's everything with you?
We are doing very well, TD. Appreciate you taking time to join us this morning. And TD, as you can imagine, we spent a lot of time this week discussing the Rashad Weaver situation. Obviously, the charges themselves concerning, and some of the comments made concerning allegedly as well. But what should the Titans have known? What did they know? What did they not know? What have been your thoughts on this situation, and how concerning is it that the Titans once again find themselves in a situation where one of their draft selections, a lot of scrutiny being thrown their way right now?
Yeah, I don't think they knew anything, and I don't think they should have from some of the things that I've gathered. And what I've been told is that there wasn't really any way for anybody to know about that, anybody meaning any teams. And you have to kind of look at the way the whole situation happened. Remember, this was filed Friday. And as I say yesterday on the TD Power Hour, it could very well have been filed later in the day, and typically these government offices, they shut down after like 3:30, 4 o'clock.
Yep.
And if that were the case, it's very unlikely for that to truly hit on Saturday, and because things are closed, so they really couldn't have known from that perspective. And that, I think, is something that you have to consider. But there have been reports, as Paul Kaharski, he spoke to some scouts, and they told him that they knew about it. So, it's right now just really hearsay. And I think the biggest thing in all of this is just allowing the details to be flushed out. Now, should you be concerned about the Titans having another draft pick, getting another scrutiny? I don't think so, because even still looking back to the Isaiah Wilson thing, okay, maybe there were some red flags, like that he had a quirky personality or something like that, right, because he shuffled through a few agents, or those kind of things, the selection process. But nowhere in any of those, I don't even know what you call them, red check marks, nowhere did it say that he was going to have this type of monumental collapse. So I think when you look at that and then you look at this Weaver situation, it's just a matter of being on the wrong end of the stick, at least in Isaiah Wilson's part. And then in this part, maybe it is a good person that made a bad decision and said a very bad statement. Maybe that's the case. We don't know. And I think that's really what you have to look at.
Well, first of all, T, I totally agree. It's bad timing on Isaiah Wilson because it was a year ago, and so it's like you just can't have anything this year, right? But I agree. I mean,
right.
The biggest red flag that I've been able to come up with that other teams had was like he was immature. But that's nothing like – there's plenty of people who are immature at that age, and they come in the league and they're fine, right? I mean, like what happened here was not – no one saw what happened here coming. But I will ask you this on the Weaver thing. Apart from when the thing was filed, one thing that you expect teams certainly to do is double back with players and their agents on, hey, should we know something? Is there something happening? And that's what it's a really interesting, discussion for this because on the one hand, like I wouldn't expect, like a player to be like, hey, guess what? This incident happened. I don't know what's going to happen with it. But I would think that agents, this is long-term for them. They have a bunch of clients, and they deal with all the teams all the time. That that they are incentivized to be as forthcoming as possible about anything. So from that angle, are you surprised that nothing was communicated?
Well, that's the thing that's really interesting is if they did go back and they said, hey, look, we're really considering you. Are there any things under the radar that we need to worry about? And if the response was no, then yeah, that is an issue. I don't know for sure that that's something that you put on the agent, though, because how do we know that this situation, clearly something happened, right? Because there's a police report where he had an argument with the young lady, right? So we know that happened. Now, how it got from there to her being found on the ground is a different story, but there's definitely something that happened. Now, is that something that happened, something that Rashad Weaver did not tell his agent? Possibly. And then his agent's just saying no because that's what he knows. So, and that's why it's so tough with the situation being as premature as this one is. It still has to be flushed out. But I think if there was a question that was asked and the team wasn't told about it, then it's ultimately it falls on Rashad Weaver, whether or not he let his agent know.
So, TD, this is the first time we've had you on since the entire draft has been completed from the Titans. What did you think of the draft for the Titans and the needs that they addressed, and in some cases the needs they did not address?
Yeah, I think they really went heavy on DB, and I say DB because I don't think Elijah Molden is just a cornerback. He could play safety. I've said it time and time again. He is very similar to Budda Baker, in my opinion, a guy that could play both positions. I think that was an outstanding pick. And then obviously the first pick, they went high end, right? And they're hoping that they found, a Louis Vuitton bag at Coach bag prices. I think that's really how you look at it, man. And Mother's Day is coming up, so I got that stuff on the mind. But
that's right.
That's how you look at it. I think they got if he could get back, Caleb Farley, that is, if he could get back to what he was before the injury, they got to steal. And it's just a big if there. But apparently it seems like the chances are pretty good for him to do that. I like that pick. Des Fitzpatrick, I think, was a good pick. He's a very underrated receiver. I know a lot of fans had a reaction of him being a 7th-round pick because they saw that on NFL.com. Well, the guy's more talented than a 7th-round prospect. I promise you that. And I actually did a post on him yesterday. He is a good player. I think he's going to help out. But my thing remains the slot receiver position. They don't have that quick, twitchy guy that, on 3rd and 7, you could just rely on him the way they relied on Adam Humphries when he was healthy. They don't have that right now. And apparently Mike Vrabel feels like they're in better shape than I do. So, hey, more power to them with that from that perspective. But I think they still need that type of player. And I think right now Ferkser is kind of like going to be their 3rd down specialist. But if the Jets release Jamison Crowder, that is a name that I would pounce on if I were the Titans.
Interesting. Yeah, I was just going to ask you, TD, on both of those positions, tight end and receiver, if you think that there's a significant ad coming at either one of them. And by the way, really good piece on Des Fitzpatrick. I mean, it was an interesting sort of illustration of what he can do. Is after, I know a lot of times this happens, like I watched Des Fitzpatrick at Louisville, thought he was a good player, but do you have a different appreciation for him, after the pick, after digging deep on him? And then also that question, do you think that maybe at both spots the Titans have a known name coming before the season starts?
Yeah, I think, like you said, Fitzpatrick was a good player at Louisville. My appreciation for him changed when I saw him at the Senior Bowl. And I just remember, consistently watching him get behind defensive backs. And, he's not a speed guy. 4.47 is solid speed, but that's 4.47, on the track. I think he wins differently. And actually Jim Nagy explained it perfectly when he told me how he gets up on cornerbacks a little bit quicker than they expect, and it causes them to panic, and that's how he's able to, get around them and stack them and win down the field. So for me, that appreciation changed when I actually saw him in person. That's what I love about going to the Senior Bowl. You could see these guys in person and really get a different perspective. So that's what it was with Fitzpatrick. As far as guys that will be added, Crowder, I think, is a name to watch. You also look at Zach Ertz. That's something that, would actually fit pretty well with the Titans. You know, he's an all-around, he's a complete tight end. And I don't think the Eagles are going to keep him around. They love Dallas Goedert. They're working to get more spread formation, like that type of look, spread personnel, 3 receivers on the field. And obviously they drafted Devontae Smith, so they're going to want to spread it out and do things for Jalen Hurts. So I think that could lead to Zach Ertz being released. He does have a $12.5 million cap number, which is very high. So he's a guy I can see the Titans adding.
ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter and host of Talking with TD, Turron Davenport, on with us here, presented by Freedom Tire Guys. TD, last thing for you here. What did you think of the selection of Monty Rice in the draft for the Titans? And that coupled with, I think, the obvious of not picking up Rashaan Evans' fifth-year option. What do you think that means for Evans and his future here? Is it as simple as this is probably going to be Evans' last year here with the Titans?
I think that's really up to Evans. I think it's going to come down to how well Rashaan Evans plays this year, and I think he's going to have a much better season than he did last year. And Evans is one of those guys where he plays really fast, right? But he has to be able to just play and not think. And I think that's the situation that kind of messed him up last year, and it was something that led to him not playing to his full potential in 2018. But in 19, the guy really did all types of great things. You look at that fourth down series against the Patriots in the playoffs. So I think that's an example of when you allow him to just play football, diagnose, and trigger, he does it really well. So it's going to be interesting watching this year how comfortable he is. Now, as far as Monty Rice is concerned, I think that, you know, they're getting a similar player to Evans. You know, and I was a bit not troubled, but puzzled by the pick at 92, just because I thought that he would be available a bit later, and I thought that there were, frankly, better players on the board at that time, right? So, you know, that's something to consider. I did think that there were other linebacker options that matched better what they wanted to do. I really like Derek Barnes out of Purdue, right? So, you know, the pick did puzzle me, but, you know, the one thing about Monty Rice that you do have to like is his ability to make plays at the line of scrimmage. You know, he's somebody that will come up and he'll make the tackles that you need him to make. He is solid against the run, so that is a good thing. He has the leadership aspect. I know that's something that these teams, especially the Titans, that they want, so that's good too. I tell you an interesting thing with him, though, and it's kind of nitpicking, but you know, he shuffled through a few agents. I think it was 3.
Yep.
You know, so I wonder if because that type of situation kind of gave Isaiah Wilson an immature, and I'm not saying in any way that I think he's going to end up like Wilson, but it did give Isaiah Wilson an immature red check next to him. So red flag. So I wonder how people looked at that with Monty Rice.
Hey, real quick, TD. Big weekend, Dad. So congrats to you and your family. So your oldest graduating from college, right?
Yes. She's graduating from Howard University. She'll be walking at 1 p.m. Unfortunately, I won't be able to actually be there. That they're not allowing parents and family to go. It's all virtual. So, you know, it's very 2020, 2021-esque. And we'll just watch it on the big screen.
Well, TD, that's awesome. Congratulations to you and your family. Hope you all have a great weekend.
Thanks. Appreciate it. You guys take care. God bless.
Absolutely. Turron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, host of Talking with TD, joins us every Friday at 8 o'clock, presented by Freedom Tire Guys. When we come back, we'll react a little bit to what TD had to say there. Also get a little bit back into the Predators as well. All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Don't miss the Cure for Our Friends Cystic Fibrosis Golf Tournament May the 15th at 12 Stones Golf Course in Goodlettsville. Some of the teams include retired Titans football players who will be hanging around after the tournament for the after party, which includes catered dinner and live music. Cure for Our Friends Golf Tournament still has a need for silent auction items. More information can be found at cureforourfriends.org. Thank you to Dad's Towing, Mitchell Motors, and Nashville Record Services for being the tournament sponsor for the 2021 Cure for Our Friends Cystic Fibrosis Golf Tournament. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Terry Crisp joining us at 8:30. We'll get into the Nashville Predators with him. Thanks to Turron Davenport for joining us in the last segment. And Joe, we talked about Rashaan Evans not getting his fifth-year option picked up when it comes to the Titans, and that obviously being their first-round pick back in 2018. That is not the norm for the 2018 draft class, apparently. A lot of fifth-year options being picked up.
Yeah, so Ben Volin, who does a very good job covering the Patriots. I guess he's actually an NFL writer now for the Boston Globe. Yeah, really interesting. Actually, it's via at the 33rd Team FB, but 17 of the top 18 of the 2018 draft have either had their options picked up or have been extended. There was Colton Miller got the extension, but it's the same thing. So basically got that second deal, or at least got the fifth year. Which that's a huge rate to me. So real quick, go through them. Because I love looking back at drafts, and you forget like the order and stuff. But Baker Mayfield, Saquon Barkley, Sam Darnold, Denzel Ward, Bradley Chubb, Quentin Nelson, Josh Allen, Roquan Smith, Mike McGlinchey, Minka Fitzpatrick, Vita Vea, Darren Payne, Marcus Davenport. Like I said, Colton Miller, Tremaine Edmonds, Derwin James, Jair Alexander, your guy. Yep. Now the one miss was, what a miss it was. Josh Rosen.
Josh Rosen, man.
The only guy who didn't. But if you even go a little bit deeper down the list, it also is 18 of the top 20, and, of course, 22 is Rashaan Evans. Yep. Now, granted, a lot more guys at the back end of the draft who did not get it picked up. So, I mean, that's not a huge surprise. You would expect the top end of the draft guys to be more sure things. But I think in a lot of years you'd see a top 10 littered with non-fifth-year options picked up. And, of course, with the Titans, just a year before that, they picked Corey Davis, number 5, didn't pick his up, didn't pick up Conklin's, didn't pick up Adoree Jackson's, and, of course, didn't pick up Rashaan Evans. So, interesting comparison to that draft with Rashaan Evans. And then, obviously, just with the Titans at large, you want more guys to compel you to keep them. Now, you can't, there's a limit on what you can do. And now John Robinson has given big numbers, second deals to, of course, Kevin Byard, to Derrick Henry, so non-first-round picks. And he's also extended Taylor Lewan for big money, guy he didn't pick, but certainly I think that was a good move. But moving forward, you want more of these first-round picks to be people that you want to keep around. You can't pay them all, but you got to –
you can pay some.
You can pay some. Yeah.
That would be a good start. I mean, it doesn't sound like Rashaan Evans is going to be here. I mean, he very well could have a bounce-back season next year. I don't know what his market would be, but my guess is if he has a bounce-back season and he looks more like the 2019 Rashaan Evans, he might price himself out of here at that point. Because remember, you've got Jayon Brown to think about too. Like, are you going to want to bring him back when it comes back? Like, to me, if I had to pick between the two, it's not even really that close. I'm picking Jayon Brown, and I'm rolling with Monty Rice, I guess, at the position that Rashaan Evans has been playing. So I don't really see a very high percentage chance at all that Rashaan Evans is here beyond this year.
I don't either. And if he does have that kind of year,
it's good for the Titans.
It's good for the Titans, but it also, he might be like, okay, great. Now I'm going to go get paid by somebody else, and you guys missed out. I mean, he can't. To me, he shouldn't realistically be upset with how this has gone because it just wasn't a very good year for him. I agree with TD that at times, you can see the talent, the ability, and when in the box, in a phone booth with Rashaan Evans, you don't want to be there. And he's been tremendous in goal line. It's just this league, you gotta be able to do more than that. And I agree on the Monty Rice thing. It's just I think they could have gotten him later. He seems way too much like Rashaan Evans. I didn't realize the thing about the agents. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that can be so many different things. I wouldn't jump to any kind of conclusion on that, but when you make that pick, one, I didn't like it. Two, I think you're making a clear statement about Rashaan Evans, no matter what you say about it afterward. Of course, you want Rashaan Evans to respond, and there's competition, and with between competition and the contract year, you might get the absolute best out of him, which would be great for this particular season. But the writing's on the wall.
So let me ask you what you threw out there to TD, and that is when you're looking at the wide receiver position, the tight end position, could there be some dominant here? Like, it's difficult for me to believe that this is just what the Titans are rolling with at tight end. So let me ask you about wide receiver. Do you think this is what the Titans wide receiver room is, and you're going to have A.J. Brown, Josh Reynolds, Des Fitzpatrick, you hope comes in and makes an impact, or do you think maybe another veteran could be in the cards here for the Titans?
I think it's way more likely at tight end, and I feel smarter now that TD is also Team Ertz with me. TD called his shot as well.
He did.
I don't know what they would be able to get Ertz for if he's released, but I think certainly you can create that kind of room. I think to sign him for what would Zach Ertz, if he's released, what would Zach Ertz cost you for a couple of years?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, he's only 30, right? Now he's 30 years old.
He's been hurt.
He got hurt this past year and had 335 yards on 36 catches. So you're talking about a guy that, consistently 850 yards, 824, 1163, 916, and then last year a major drop-off, both in terms of production and in terms of injury as well. Now, how much of that is Zach Ertz reducing as a player, and how much of that is Philadelphia sucked? Carson Wentz was awful last year. It's probably some combination of the two. Like, I don't think if you're the Titans, you can expect Zach Ertz, if you go get him, to come in here and be Zach Ertz from 2017. Like, that's not going to happen. But is he as bad as he looked last year? Like Corey Curtis earlier this week said he was done. Like, is Zach Ertz done at this point? I think it's a legitimate question that I'd be concerned about if I was the Titans.
Well, if it's a legitimate question, can you get him for $4 million?
Maybe
$3-4 million, something like that.
Maybe.
Is it worth that kind of gamble? If you feel great that he's healthy, and a lot of times you see this where player gets hurt, player is discarded, and is very motivated to prove people wrong and to prove the last team wrong and to get healthy and stay in the league. Because when he was right, he was really good, and I think he'd be perfect for them as an all-around tight end one if he is right and healthy. And I think to your point, it's a good question. We certainly know John Robinson will roll those dice, right?
Yes, he will.
He will take a shot on someone, and I think they could end up with a low-cost answer. So I think tight end somewhere along the way has to be an ad. I don't think you have to add at the receiver room. They might, and I'm not saying, like, hey, if you have a clear WR2 and you can afford it, great, but I don't think you're going to afford it because I think you have to pay for a tight end. You may have to pay Gostkowski. I mean, there's a lot of things that are still to come. I think the wide receiver room is much more likely to be intact from now, but tight end can't be.
No.
I mean, why not add another player that has some injury concern? I mean,
just pile it up, baby.
Every other addition they've made in the last two off seasons has injury concern.
Just pile it up. Bring him back in there.
I'm sensing a little frustration
There's
there.
A little
sarcasm there.
A little hostility from Ryan Porth. Join 102.5 The Game tomorrow from 10 to noon for the Nashville SC pre-match party outside the Hard Rock Cafe downtown. Party before the match on Broadway and get some game swag, plus register to win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Nashville SC home game. Then head over to Nissan Stadium for the 12:30 match. Get your tickets now for Nashville SC at NashvilleSC.com and tune into the game on ESPN 94.9. The pregame show will begin at 12:15. When we come back, we'll get into the Nashville Predators. Terry Chris, Preds TV analyst, will join us. That's coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. The Nashville Predators taking on the Carolina Hurricanes tomorrow, and they could have their playoff fate sealed by that point. They may not. We'll find out tonight against Tampa when Tampa Bay takes on the Dallas Stars. And to help us talk more about all this, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our good friend, Predators TV analyst Terry Crisp. Crispy, what's going on, my man? How we doing?
Good morning, gentlemen. Doing great. Got my hot coffee going. The rain's gone through. A beautiful sunny day out there, and looking forward to the next battle we've got on our hands, the Carolina Hurricanes, and make that big step into the playoffs.
It's going to be an interesting weekend here in Bridgestone Arena. That's absolutely for sure. Crispy, I got to be honest with you. I was kind of disappointed in the way the Predators came out in that game on Wednesday night against Columbus. I thought the energy level would be high, and I thought they were lacking in that department. Do you agree with that? And if so, why do you think that was for the Predators on Wednesday night?
Yeah, you know what? I was sort of like you guys, and we all were amazed, and Hal Gill and I, we all thought, this is the game we've been waiting for. This is a team that we can beat, that we're capable of beating. We got the guns going, and out they come. And when the game was all over, and we sat back and just sort of dissected it. And after you got by the herd line, which brought energy everywhere which you have, I mean, we're talking about them all along, and a couple other players, I kept wondering where was this jump, this sense of urgency, this sense of not total desperation, but this could be our game. This could be our ticket in, not to worry about somebody else doing it for us or whatever. And they did not jump in. A lot of the guys didn't see it. Whether they were trying and couldn't get it done, I'm not sure on that end of it, because looking at the game and watching a bit of it afterwards, you know what? Yeah, a bit of a disappointment in the effort of a few of them.
So, Crispy, I want to know more about you yelling at Jared. I don't feel like you yell at Jared enough. I'm glad to hear about it, but in all seriousness, some conversation there about Matt Duchene, and your point being, Matt Duchene is in this lineup to score goals. He doesn't play a lot in the third period of that game, and John Hines told us, that wasn't an injury concern. But so, what's your level of concern with Matt Duchene right now?
You know what? Not that I have a level of concern, but I would think that Matt Duchene would have a little bit of a concern, because he's an athlete. He has pride, and he knows what the game is all about. He knows what's expected. He's a professional, and I know that he's probably disappointed in what's doing, what's happening. But having said that, when Matt came here, he was considered one of our top offensive guys, like Forsberg is, and like Joey Johansson is, and Duchene, and we were all counting his teammates, etc. And he himself was too, and he has to be a little disappointed in his effort. And I can't. You see parts of it, like some games he's just unreal, and then it sort of goes away. And having been a player and a coach for a lot of years, you see it happening. And you know what? There's no magic wand for a coach or another player on that line. Because if you're on the line with somebody like that, which I've been with a few times, you do your best to bolster each other up and to get. That's what it's all about. But when it all comes down to it, it's the individual. It's each guy who steps off through that gate onto that ice to bring his game every night. And every guy on each line has a job. They have a duty, and they've been signed to a good contract to do it, and they got to do it. And Matt Duchene is one of the ones that we're counting on in the next couple of games and in the playoffs is to produce for us. And I know he wants to, but again, wanting to and doing it are two different things.
Preds TV analyst Terry Crisp on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So, Crispy, now the Predators in a very interesting situation. As you pointed out, a missed opportunity against Columbus to get it done and get your playoff destiny taken care of. It could happen tonight, but if you're the Predators, you're focusing in on this game tomorrow against Carolina. As a coach, as you're kind of looking at the situation here, knowing that if Tampa Bay wins tonight in regulation, that you're in and you're going to be the number 4 seed, how do you kind of approach this next 24-hour period as a coach? Because I would assume there are Predators players right now that have probably been playing through some things. They've been in playoff mode for essentially 2 months at this point. And if you get things wrapped up tonight, maybe you do want to give a guy a night off and maybe get him healed up before the playoffs. But you also, if Tampa Bay loses tonight, you got to go win the game tomorrow against Carolina. Like, how do you approach that balance and what this next 24-hour period is going to be like if you're John Hines and his staff?
And you know what? They've talked this over. And again, it's all what if. But if you win it, you automatically might I say, sit down one or two players, give one a rest or whatever, and put a guy into. But I've always felt as a coach that I want to hit the playoffs running. I want to hit the playoffs full bore and have every guy on the team ready to go. And the line's ready to go and the defense pair is ready to go. So you're not going to make a major upheaval in your lineup, not a chance. But like you said, if some guy's got a nagging injury or something, he might sit out. But the rest of the guys, if you got them all in, you got 4 lines, you got 6 defensemen. That gives you the option of rolling them all if you're in and you don't have to win. You want to win. I mean, no player in any sport should ever go on a field or an ice or whatever and not want to win that game. And these guys are certainly no different. But having said that, the playoffs, it's going to be a grind. And if you have a couple that are injured or whatnot, you might sit them down or rest them. But on the other hand, I want to run all the rest of the guys. I want them all together, knowing our system, knowing what it's going to take. And I'll tell you one thing. These last 2 games are going to be great because I watched Carolina again last night. Now, watching them play against our team is one thing. You're sort of one-sided. But I watched that game last night against Chicago. And I got to tell you, Chicago was unbelievable. And Carolina is built like a machine. I mean, you watch, they got the biggest guys on defense that are fast. And that's scary if I'm a forward. Some big son of a gun back there that can move and get a hold of you. Carolina is built. That's why they're in first place in our division of the 3 best teams out there. So no, to answer your thing, if I'm coach, I want to hit the playoffs running full speed.
Well, and the thing is, Crispy, obviously the last 2 against Carolina, which is, I mean, I'm trying to think if, like in league history, you've had a situation where 2 teams played in the playoffs after playing the last 2 of the regular season against each other. I'm guessing no. So you think you think about seeing these guys 2 out of 3 days, and then potentially going down there a few days later to take them on. Is it important that the Preds, regardless of the situation, let's say they might be in tonight, is it important that the Preds beat them in one of these 2 games just to kind of see it happen, to know they can do it? And is it important to sort of work on some things in this matchup to try to be more competitive with them in a potential playoff series?
You hit both counts. It's important we win to prove to ourselves and everybody else that we can skate with this team and beat them if we play our game. And secondly, we certainly know what we have to do with this team to beat them. Haven't seen them enough times and haven't seen their style of play and watching them. And so if you're coming to these 2 games and we're in, and you know you're going to play them, and you know what you might, but at the other side of the coin, you think, now Rod Brindamore, the coach of the Hurricanes, is he going to sit a couple of his guns because they've had a run at it, so they're heading for the first place spot, or if they have first place wrapped up, are they going to do that from their end of it? I'm not sure if Rod would or not. Knowing Rod and the way he played and his coach that he is, I'm thinking he'll have his team going full bore.
Preds TV analyst Terry Crisp has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Joins us every Friday here at 8:30 on the program. Crispy, great stuff as always. Appreciate you taking time to join us, and it's going to be a fun weekend in Smashville this weekend.
It sure is, guys. Thank you very much. We'll see everybody at the Bridgestone Arena, and let's get that playoff thing wrapped up and get into them.
Absolutely. Terry Crisp here on Robby and Rexrode. And Preds fans, we want to send you to see your Nashville Predators take on the Carolina Hurricanes tomorrow night at Bridgestone Arena. Post a picture of you rocking the gold to your social and use the hashtag #RockTheGold and tag us for a chance to win a pair of tickets to tomorrow night's game. We're on Twitter at 1025thegame and on Instagram and Facebook at The Game Nashville. The winner will be contacted later today. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation on the Nashville Predators, look ahead to the matchup against Carolina, and also revisit part of the discussion there with Terry Crisp. What do we think about this Matt Duchene situation moving forward down the stretch here, not only this weekend, but into the playoffs as well. All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Do you watch the Dallas game? Do you pay much attention to it as a coach, or are you more focused on just kind of getting your guys prepared and doing what you've got to do from that standpoint?
I think the most important thing for all of us, the players and coaches, is to not be scoreboard watching. I think it's important that we have to get ready for the biggest game of the year, and we don't want to be sitting here counting on Dallas to lose. I think we got to understand that we didn't take care of business against Columbus. We got a day off here. We got to come back to the rink tomorrow, focused on getting better, focused on Carolina, and making sure that we're ready to play our best game of the year on Saturday. And if we do that, then our destiny is going to be in our own hands. But I think once you go down that other road, your focus isn't where it needs to be, and our focus needs to be on our game and on Carolina.
That was Predators head coach John Hines, who joined us yesterday on the show, discussing the approach for the Predators heading into this weekend, saying the focus needs to be on Carolina and what could be the biggest game of the season for the Predators coming up tomorrow night at Bridgestone Arena. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning, streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Joe, it may not matter tomorrow what happens in this game, depending on the outcome of the Tampa Bay and Dallas game tonight. Tampa Bay hosting Dallas. If Tampa Bay wins in regulation, Dallas is eliminated, and the Predators will clinch a playoff berth. I believe their 7th consecutive playoff berth if they get it done tonight. And that would mean tomorrow's game against Carolina, there's not much to play for other than it's Carolina, and that's probably the team you're going to see in the first round of the playoffs if it comes to pass there. So that kind of leads us to what we've been discussing this morning in terms of our poll question of the day. If you're a Predators fan, how would you rather see the Predators clinch a playoff berth? Would you rather see Dallas lose in regulation tonight? That way you got nothing to worry about heading into this weekend. Or would you rather see the Predators earn it and beat Carolina straight up to get into the playoffs? So far, 165 votes are in. 71% say they would rather see the Predators just beat Carolina and get in. 29% say, I'll take the Dallas regulation loss, please.
I like it.
I'm surprised by it.
We're getting, you know what? You know what that is? That is a fan base that is not soft.
That's right.
So we're getting Jael at JL Bay is throwing out the soft media, Titan soft media.
Jael at JL Bay.
Sounds like an email address.
Which one is it? Is it Jael or JL?
Okay, fine, at Jael Bay. All right. I mean,
anyway, what do you say?
So Jael was separated, and then in the at they were together. Whatever.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, he's his tweet is, I guess I shouldn't be surprised to hear at T Davenport NFL, but he didn't space it, so he didn't tag Turron.
Did not operate the space bar correctly.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't be surprised to hear Turron making excuses for the Titans. The soft Titans media strikes again. I guess Kevin Dodd was just a mishap. 2 SMH. That means shake my head. I know that stuff.
Yes, it does.
Good job, Joe.
Yeah, Titan soft media, man. Come on. But regardless, we can talk about that later. But see, a soft fan base wants to back into the playoffs. A legit fan base says, no, I want to win. I want to win and earn a way into the playoffs. Because you know what? If we back in and we play nothing of consequence against this team, where are we? What have we proved? We can go take these guys on in a game that matters and prove to ourselves that we can go beat them in a playoff series. Are you just going to be happy with, backing in, losing in 5 and, whimper away into the offseason, or do you want to go earn something?
Just get in the playoffs. Yeah, I have no problem if I'm the Predators watching Dallas lose tonight. Just get in. It's okay. Look, they've earned it. They've clawed and fought their way to this point. They've earned it.
I'm not saying like they don't deserve to be in.
I know you're not.
If it happens this way, I'm just saying. I mean, plus, if you're a fan who has tickets for tomorrow, wouldn't you rather see your team playing a game that matters?
Yes. Watch Pecorine.
If that happens.
If it happens. I think it will.
Porth with a concise yes. Good for you.
Yes.
You're playing good music today.
So you're telling me that you would take your chances that you got to beat Carolina once out of the next 2 games rather than just getting Dallas over and done with tonight.
Yes, I don't.
They're playing Chicago.
As good as Carolina is, I don't think the Preds are going to lose all 8 to them.
Well, they've lost 6.
I
There's
know
only
they
2
have.
more.
I'm well aware. I am well aware. But beating a team 8 times in one season is so stinking hard. I mean, the Preds won 7 against the Hawks. They should have won 8, but they didn't win 8.
So part of your
answer,
answer,
a monumental collapse, but yes,
that's true. So part of your answer is also confidence, basically law of averages / confidence in the matchup.
Yeah, I am confident.
That may be delusional, but I like your answer.
Especially with if there's still a playoff spot on the line tomorrow night, they are going to win. If Tampa Bay wins in regulation and we see Michael McCarron out there, then I'm not going to be as confident in that.
There's a lot of shots he's taking to Michael McCarron this year. What if we see Michael McCarron and Eric Goodbranson out there? What does that tell you?
Be a lot. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. Okay, that would not be positive.
All right.
I mean, the amount of hatred for Goodbranson on this show. For the record,
there's no hatred.
Well, it's hatred of his.
I'm sure he's a great guy.
Hockey skills.
Yeah, he's not great.
But look, I'm pleased by the
off. They haven't looked horrible, but they have not looked like themselves from the last month or so. And if Saturday and Monday don't mean anything for either team, for either the Canes or the Preds, then the last time that they would have had a full lineup, theoretically, and played their A game was May 1st. And I don't know if I want that going into a playoff series 2 weeks later.
I agree. Like, you'd like to see your best hockey with your best lineup against a really good team before you get into this tournament, if you get in. I mean,
all right, but I mean, playing your best hockey on Monday has nothing to do with Friday.
What?
It has nothing to do with it.
I put some stock in what Crispy said, a guy who's won a cup as a coach and a player. If you believe what he just said last segment, there is.
How many times have we seen a team screw around for 2 weeks at the last regular season and then turn it on when the playoffs get there? And how many times have we seen a team on fire heading in the playoffs and get swept in the first round?
Yes.
There's no direct correlation.
There's no 100% correlation.
Yes.
There's no 100, of course. Every possible avenue to the cup final has been taken. So in any sport. I mean, that's like the NCAA tournament to me. You know, in college basketball, a lot of times, like the team rips through. It's, Texas rips through, and oh man, they look so awesome, and the beat Oklahoma State, and then they go down to Oral Roberts, right? I mean,
well, look at Illinois this year.
Yes, exactly.
Illinois was on fire.
I mean, I picked them to win it based on how they looked and
Everybody did.
And what happened. So yes, now that's a different tournament. That's a one and done tournament. This is a 7-game series, but this tournament is more like that than it is like the NBA playoffs. So I agree that there's uncertainty and there's unpredictability, but you know what? I'm still, as a coach or a player, I want to have as fresh as possible our best hockey out there, and the muscle memory's there,
Kenneth on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHunted.com, says, I'd rather Dallas lose so that the players can get more rest. It'd be good for UC to rest and get Pekka a few games to practice just in case you need him.
So you're talking Pekka both games. I don't think that's happening.
I don't think it is either.
Because I don't, like you said. See, but you're kind of contradicting yourself a little bit.
Why?
Were you saying you don't want Saros to be out a week and a half? I mean, it's the same kind of thing, right? I mean, if he's...
Well, there's a difference between playing your A game and not playing at all.
Not playing at all, yeah. But some guys will probably rest, though,
yeah,
too. So some of your best players...
Well, what's more advantageous, resting them if they've got something that's going on with them, or, hey, make sure you keep playing this way and then kill yourself in the first round of the playoffs?
Well, if you're going to put it that way.
I mean, I don't think it's really that difficult of a decision. Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHunday.com. Got a texture that says, if Dallas loses tonight, call up Pitlick, Tomasino, and the boys and let them play this weekend.
That would be even more fun for fans to be able to see, especially like people have seen Pitlick, and I thought he actually looked pretty good, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tomasino, that'd be fun.
Scott on Twitter says, backing into that last spot would be a great way to sum up their season. A little bit of shade thrown the Predators' way.
Dang, Scott. What do you think about soft media, Scott?
Clay on Twitter says, definitely want the Preds to win, but I'll take a Dallas loss every single day of the week. It's going to be interesting.
If they lose in overtime, there you go.
They're still alive.
They lose in overtime, they're still alive. All you need is a point.
That is true. You wouldn't even have to beat Carolina.
That was my called shot.
Yeah, I know. If Dallas loses tonight in overtime, you don't even technically have to beat Carolina. Just get it to overtime once.
Take them to OT. So now I know that's like, I don't know how much confidence you get out of that. Like, yeah, right. Just lost to them in 3-on-3, but got them there.
For the people in fear of missing the playoffs, as the Stars' playoff hopes are on life support, that is the worst possible outcome, because then that still gives Carolina incentive tomorrow night if Tampa Bay gets 2 points tonight, and it keeps Dallas alive.
Yep. But you know what? Again, to me, it's like, you want – I mean, are you going to do anything in the postseason? No question. You could be dead as a doornail, barely get in, and make a run. And that's happened. But I think there's something positive to be gained from earning something this weekend.
Yes.
But also, like, if Dallas wins tonight in regulation, Carolina's won the division. So then if Dallas wins tonight, you can look at it, okay, well, yeah, they're still alive, but now Carolina has nothing to play for. They've wrapped everything up.
And then imagine losing to them still.
I know. That would be bad. That would not be great. See if the Predators can avoid that.
Then you don't deserve to be in then.
I would agree. Look, you're in a great spot right now. If you get through this entire weekend and into Monday and you don't make the playoffs, you've got nobody to blame but yourself.
Agreed.
That's what it is at this point. Like,
and the right team is in the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you're in a great spot right now if you're the Predators. You let one get away the other night in Columbus. You should have won that game. You let a point get away against Chicago. But even still, you're sitting in a good spot. If Monday rolls around and you're not in the playoffs, you got nobody to blame but yourself. When we come back, we'll get into a little Nashville SC action. Them taking on the New England Revolution this weekend. Jamie Watson, Nashville SC TV analyst, will join us next. This is Robby and Rexrode, live from the Wholesaling Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com. You're on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in. Final hour of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Scheduled to be joined shortly by Nashville SC TV analyst Jamie Watson. Nashville SC taking on the New England Revolution this weekend tomorrow at Nissan Stadium, 12:30. You can hear pregame at 12:15 here on ESPN 94.9. So far, Joe, Nashville SC 3 draws to begin the season. Not only have they, I think they're, as we heard earlier in the show, they're the 8th team that has not won a game, only 8 teams in the league, and also I think the 7th team that's not lost a game as well. So a pretty weird start to the season for Nashville SC. They got more shots than anybody in the MLS, and they've not found a way to win a game yet to this point. Now, you have picked up points in all 3 games, but I feel like at least in 2 of the 3 games, they've deserved a better result.
Yeah, so realistically, could they be at like 7 points versus 3 points right now? That's a pretty big difference.
It is.
So it seems like there's some frustration. Obviously, some slow starts that they've been able to overcome and some terrific, stretches of dominance. Joe Willis, I think last game, a couple huge saves early to keep that a scoreless draw at the end, but you want to find a way to get those 3-pointers as much as possible when you start the season with a homestand, so you hope to get some wins in there. I'd say it's big for this team to get a win tomorrow.
It is big to get a win tomorrow. You got to find a way to start picking up some more points because, I think you can view this a couple of different ways if you're Nashville SC. You're glad to have gotten points in every game so far, but I think especially in the first 2 games against Cincinnati and against Montreal, you're just dominating in the second half of that game. You fall behind 2-0 in both games, and then you ended up tying the game both times where you were just all on the attack in the second half of that game. I was watching the FC Cincinnati game in Cincinnati, and it was just, they were peppering Cincinnati. They spent the whole second half with the ball. It was unbelievable what they were putting together. So I guess in some ways you view it as disappointing that you're in this spot right now where all you've got to show for it is draws so far, but also you feel pretty good about the way that you've been playing. With that in mind, let's go to our 1025 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Nashville SC TV analyst Jamie Watson. Jamie, what's going on? Thanks for taking time to join us.
Hey, good morning, guys. I appreciate you guys having me on as always. We had a good time last time, so let's why not try to relive that fun that we had and talk some more soccer on your guys' great show.
Absolutely. We appreciate it, Jamie. And, Jamie, we were just talking about it. It's been an interesting start to the season because I think you feel pretty good for the most part about the way Nashville SC has played. And we heard a clip earlier, Gary Smith kind of voicing the frustration of you like the way you played, you hate that you've not been able to win as of yet. What have you made of the first 3 games for Nashville SC?
Yeah, there's obviously there's glass half full, glass half empty way that you can look at it, right? And when you look at it on paper, I'm sure before the season started, everybody would have said if we'd have gotten through 3 games and we'd have only seen Nashville SC have 3 points, would that have been enough? And the reality is, they probably would have said no, it wouldn't have been enough. But having said that, it's only 3 games into a 34-game season, so. It's one of those things, let's not get carried away and say the sky is falling because they don't have a win just yet. The perspective is definitely needed this early in the season when you're not even a tenth of the way through. And I wasn't an algebra scholar, fellas, but I think 3 games through 34 games, that's not quite 1/10 of the way through. So
you're correct.
Having said that, thank you. I appreciate it. I've been on the calculator all morning making sure before I drop that. No, I think the reality is it just adds a little bit more pressure because of the front-loaded nature of the schedule to get some wins. And if you don't get these wins at home, which realistically in sports, as we all know, it's a little bit easier to get wins at home, you start to put a little bit more pressure on yourself to go and have to get results on the road later in the year in maybe more difficult situations. So with that, I think there might be a little bit more angst from the group going into tomorrow's match against New England, who are sitting at the top of the Eastern Conference as it stands right now.
So, Jamie, just in terms of performance and maybe individuals, what has, I guess, surprised you the most so far? What would you say is, maybe the storyline that people aren't talking about enough?
Well, I think the narrative that I think the last time we spoke was about how organized and how defensively stout this team was. But there was always that question, can they go and be progressive in scoring goals? And can they be an attack-minded team? Well, you look through the first 2 games, they were leading the league with, I believe, 49 shots. And you look at Dan Lovitz, he's leading Major League Soccer in key passes. That's an outside defender leading Major League Soccer with key passes. The next closest is 10. That's a guy who's a playmaker, Maxi Morales for New York. He's one of the most elite attacking midfielders in the league. And here it is, our outside back is one of the players that's getting the most involved going into the attack. So I think they got 2 goals in both of the first 2 games. Last week they were held scoreless by a defensive-minded team, but I think you're seeing more of a progressive nature. And here's the reality of it, too. After the first 3 games we're having this discussion of, hey, what's going on? They haven't gotten a win over there at Nissan Stadium yet. Nashville SC don't have a win through 3 games. We certainly weren't having that discussion last year through the first couple of games, say what's going on. I think the expectations now are so much higher, and that's an indication that the respect and the sort of belief and the bar is set a lot higher than where it was this time of year ago. That's a sign of progression in this club, and a club that made the playoffs last year. And if the expectations are you should be doing better, well, that shows the ambition of the club.
Nashville SC TV analyst Jamie Watson on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And Jamie, particularly in the first 2 games against Cincinnati and Montreal, some slow starts. You fall behind 2-0 in both of those games. And I was watching the Cincinnati game in Cincinnati around a bunch of FC Cincinnati fans that we just happened to stumble into a place, and they were watching the game. And by the end of the game, I mean, Nashville SC, the possession they had, I think they had like 31 shots in that game. The corner kicks, they just dominated in that game. I mean, the people in Cincinnati stood and applauded at the result of a draw at the end of the game just because they knew that they were holding on for dear life. So you feel good, like I said before, about the way that they played. How do you kind of guard against some of the slower starts that we've seen, especially in the first 2 games against Cincinnati and Montreal?
Yeah, that's just it. I mean, Robbie, you hit it spot on there. It was Cincinnati holding off for dear life at the end of the game, and same could be said for Montreal as well. And I said before the last game, let's try this bold strategy. Let's see if Nashville cannot concede 2 goals right off the bat and then start to play. And they did that. I just forgot to add on the part, and they should also score 2 goals first.
Yes.
That one's on me for the last game. Hold my hand up. That one's on me. I think realistically it's about when you're at home putting teams under pressure and sort of playing on the front foot regardless who they are. And I think right now this team is a team that plays with so much energy and so much, I want to say just spirit within the group, because it's a locker room that really genuinely gets along. Probably one of the better locker rooms I've seen, and I've been around professional sports for 2 decades now. And I think that's kind of starts from the top down with the coaching staff. Gary has them in a really good place, and the players they sort of police themselves. They get along really well. It's a good balance of the group. And so that sort of belief and camaraderie in the locker room needs to come out from the minute the whistle blows. And I think now you've started to see the character of the team been tested twice. I said this on the broadcast, which you can catch on My 30 tomorrow, starting at noon. I looked at the game and I said, okay, the character bank is filled, right? We don't need to see if there's any more character. This group has character. They've come back from 2-0 twice already. Now can you show the character of being the ones that set the pace of the game from the second the whistle blows? And so that's really what I want to see tomorrow when I watch these 2 teams play and kick off at 12:30 at Nissan Stadium. Can you make sure that you get out on the front foot, you set the tone, regardless if you're playing the best team in your conference or the worst team in your conference? It just happens to be the best team in the conference. It'll be a big test. It certainly will be. And having fans back in the stands will be a big deal. I know you can go to NashvilleSC.com. You can get tickets. There's still some tickets available for the game tomorrow. It's a wonderful atmosphere. It's supposed to be a nice day. I checked. The weather is supposed to hold out, so our sideline reporter, Kelly Glendenning, she's not going to get poured rain on like she did last week. Tony Husband and I will be up in the booth, nice and comfortable regardless. But hopefully it'll be a great game, a great atmosphere. And if you can get a win against the league leaders in the Eastern Conference, it'll really start to set a tone, and it'll change the mindset about how the first 3 games have gone. Now, if you beat the top team in the West or in the Eastern Conference in your 4th game.
Yeah, and speaking of New England Revolution, Jamie, what would you say would be a key element of this match or a matchup that you're looking at?
So a key element with this, they've got one of the best attacking players in Carlos Heel. This guy's got a pedigree, played over in the Premier League before he came over to the Revolution. He is their X factor. Kind of how he goes, the Revolution goes. So you got to make sure to stop him. They've got a really young, fast, athletic, but also very organized and smart back line. I think that their outside backs get a little bit excited in wanting to join into the attack. Brandon Bye on one side, DeJuan Jones. These guys love to get in and get assists. Brandon Bye actually scored last week from his outside back position. But when they get forward, they get a little bit exposed. I think they get a little bit unbalanced. So last week you saw Randall Leal and Alex Muehl start in those outside midfield positions. Can they maybe keep an eye on when the defender goes, if the ball turns over, that's a space to attack. Now you start to get some of the center defenders. They start to draw out of position a little bit. And then can you start to get unbalanced in the back line that's normally very organized? And it's going to be a tall task beating the goalkeeper, Matt Turney. He's a very, very good goalkeeper. He's kind of one of those guys that is always in the discussion with the U.S. men's national team. So you've got some real stars playing in the game tomorrow. It's going to be a star-studded cast. They don't make a lot of mistakes, but when they do, you've got to make them pay. And that was really the reason they weren't able to get the full 3 points against Inter Miami last week. They didn't take advantage of mistakes. I think when New England do make those mistakes, you got to make them pay, and it's probably going to be in those outside back positions.
Absolutely. Nashville SC TV analyst Jamie Watson has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Jamie, we appreciate you taking time to join us. Looking forward to the game tomorrow. I'll be in the building, and should be a good one for Nashville SC against the New England Revolution.
We can't wait to see you there, and you better come say hey, and maybe I can get you on the show so we can do a little bit of role reversal.
Hey, I am totally cool with that.
Shop, all right?
Absolutely. Jamie Watson, appreciate you taking time to join us.
As always, thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Nashville SC taking on the New England Revolution tomorrow at 12:30 at Nissan Stadium. You can catch the action on ESPN 94.9 starting at 12:15. When we come back, we'll get back into the Tennessee Titans and look ahead at this division. Who should be the favorite in the AFC South? Should it be the Titans or should it be the Colts? All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. 1025 The Game and T-Mobile have partnered up to give you a chance to experience a Nashville SC game this season. Tune in every Monday to Darren Donica Chase for the keyword to text in to win. Good luck from 1025 The Game, T-Mobile, and Nashville SC. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee, discussing the Tennessee Titans and taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. John Clayton was on with Darren Donica and Chase yesterday, and they talked to a variety of different topics with John Clayton, but one of the things that they talked about was the AFC South. You've got Houston that's in a mess right now. Obviously, Jacksonville, it's a new regime. Urban Meyer coming in, Trevor Lawrence taking over as quarterback. But I think most people feel like the race at the moment is between the Titans and the Colts in the AFC South. Who should be the favorite in the AFC South? Should it be the Titans or should it be the Colts? John Clayton offered his thoughts yesterday on Darren Donica and Chase. Here's what John Clayton had to say.
There's been so many up and downs right now with the roster, the cornerback position with the Titans and, different moves, letting guys go and stuff like that. I kind of give the edge right now to the Colts. We'll see where it goes with Carson Wentz, but I think Frank Reich can do a good job with him. I mean, it's still two playoff caliber teams, but I kind of give the edge right now to the Colts. They added two edge rusher, defensive ends. That did help. I mean, they do have a big question mark at left tackle that they got to resolve because Anthony Costanzo retired. So are they going to sign Charles Leno or what are they going to do there? But I think overall, the slight edge goes to the Colts, and obviously Houston just a trash dump right now, and Jacksonville is on the rebuilding process. It looks like they'll probably go 5-1 in the division for both teams.
So that was John Clayton on yesterday with Darren Donica and Chase, saying that he would consider the Colts to be a favorite right now in the AFC South. Now, he did say both teams are playoff quality teams, but gave the edge to the Colts. Joe, as you look at this discussion, as we break down the AFC South and decide between the Titans and the Colts who should be the favorite, what would your answer be? Is it the Colts? Is it the Titans? Where would you take this?
I picked the Titans last year, and I think two of my coworkers at The Athletic agreed with me. And
Not many.
And we were right. And right now I'm taking the Titans again, largely on the strength of what positions matter. There's a lot that matter, but the Titans have the better quarterback. The Titans have the better running back. I know a lot of people say, oh, who cares about that? Well, kind of matters the Titans. And the Titans have the better number one receiver. So I would also argue, by the way, that the Titans' offensive line is better than the Colts because the Titans have a Pro Bowl level left tackle and the Colts don't have a left tackle. So there's a lot of case to be made the other way, and the Colts roster is very good. I love their front seven, but it's weaker, and it got stronger here because Danico Autry signed here. I like their draft picks. I think Kwity Paye is going to be good. I mean, I guess I shouldn't go through the whole roster. Yeah, I'm picking the Titans.
Well, they do have a better kicker at the moment.
That's a good
Rodrigo Blankenship is in the mix in Indianapolis.
Hot Rod.
Who's going to kick for the Titans? We don't know.
There's plenty of questions, and that's one of them for the Titans. But if you tell me right now, you got to, bet your house on one of these teams to win the AFC South, I'm not taking a lot of time before going with the Titans. And it doesn't mean I think they're going to run away with it. It'll be a great race, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would go Titans too. Like, I've got a lot of questions about the Colts, and that begins really with Carson Wentz. Like, what version of Carson Wentz are we going to see? Because if it's, pre-injury 2017 Carson Wentz, this is a different discussion. I mean, I think the Colts are probably the runaway favorite at that point. But if it's, 2020 Carson Wentz, I think the Titans are the runaway favorite because there's such a wide, spectrum in which Carson Wentz can land that I don't really know what to think about the Colts. I mean, I look at their offense. I love them at running back. They got a lot of really good running backs. Jonathan Taylor kind of came into his own in the second half of last year. You bring back Marlon Mack. Hines is there as well. I mean, you've got basically a three-headed monster at the running back position. They don't really have a wide receiver that scares me. I mean, I think Michael Pittman Jr. is really good, but I'm not sitting there if I'm the Titans just shaking in my boots over Michael Pittman at this point. Their offense, I think it all depends on what version of Carson Wentz we're going to see. And I think sometimes, when Carson Wentz, when the trade was announced, I know Jared felt this way. A lot of Titans fans felt this way of this was like a moment of celebration for the Titans because Carson Wentz was coming in, and you felt like, okay, well, you don't have to worry about the Colts moving forward because they've got Carson Wentz. I don't necessarily subscribe to that. Like, I would be careful of that moving forward, but I do leave open the possibility that maybe we've just simply seen the best of Carson Wentz, and he's not going to be all that good moving forward. And if that's the case, that's great news for the Titans, and I think that makes them the clear favorite in the division.
Another thing with this, when you think about when the two teams met and they were, full strength, and the Colts were very good defensively up front against the Titans. Now, the Titans weren't totally full strength. Their offensive line wasn't full strength, for example. We got to keep that in mind. But it was a very, very frustrating night for that Titans defense, which even if it had any pass rush, and it didn't, but even if it did, it's the ball's out, the ball's out, the ball's out. Hines. It's just dinking you to death. That's going to be different in a little bit. I think you're going to have a little bit more chance to get to Carson Wentz, at least the way he has played. Now, maybe Frank Reich, maybe they want that offense to operate the same way, but he's not the same kind of quarterback. And I think that you can probably affect him a little bit more, especially if the Colts still don't have a good answer at left tackle and your pass rush is what you think it will be, which is massively upgraded.
Christopher on Periscope says, one thing that concerns me about the Colts is that their defense is slightly better than ours. It's interesting.
I agree.
It is, but to your point earlier in the show, I don't love the corners for Indianapolis. They have lost to Nico Autry as well. Now, I realize you've just addressed that in the draft to some degree, bringing in a couple defensive ends. But I do think that the Colts defense, while still very good, and you've got some good players out there, for sure, they're not like this impenetrable force out there. I think there are areas of weakness that you can expose, especially in the secondary for Indianapolis.
Yeah, now I do think that when they're healthy, their strength matches up well with your strength.
Yep.
When DeForest Buckner's in there, it's tougher sledding, and we saw that in the first meeting. And Darius Leonard returned to his 2018 form last year, largely. So, I do think they match up well with the Titans when they got Buckner in there. And they address safety in the draft. But, yeah, their corners are fine, but I don't think they're striking fear into anyone. So, it's close, but it's going to be a little bit annoying to see 90% of people pick the Colts without I think really looking into it. And if you go by just your real basic first blush thing in the NFL, I think a lot of times if you're comparing two teams, you go at quarterback.
Yep.
And so if that's the case, I guess that tells you that a lot of people still just really don't have a clue about what Tannehill's been to the Titans. And maybe they won't.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jordan texting in, if Carson Wentz gets an offseason and a preseason, he'll do fine. If he does what Rivers did last year, it's a different story. A lot of hate on Phillip Rivers last year.
Yeah,
Ryan Porth called him a trash can or whatever he called him earlier.
Yeah, he only threw for 4,200 yards.
No, it was trash dump. That's what Clayton said.
4,200 yards,
Trash
68%.
dump.
Yeah, trash dump. 24 TDs, 11 picks. Now he trash dumped a couple games.
Yes, he did.
But they won 11 also, and he won some of those games. You got to keep that in mind.
So what's it going to take to win the division this year? 11-6, 12-5.
I hate even talking about these stupid records.
What do you think?
Another one of those good old 13-4 teams.
Yeah.
Oh man, 13-4. What is that? Is that more 13-3 or is that more 12-4? I don't even know.
It's in the middle, man.
Joe, I think this is how you feel about the 17-game schedule.
Trash dump.
Trash dump.
Trash dump.
Well said by John Clayton.
What was Phillip Rivers last year?
Trash dump.
Wow.
He looked okay in Nissan Stadium.
Ding, 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 ding.
What does Joe think about Creed?
Trash dump.
Oh, that's too nice for Creed. Creed is the maggots under the trash dump.
Wow.
No, that was kind of mean.
That was mean.
I'm sorry, Creed.
What did Scott Stapp do to you?
Yeah. See, I'm sure he's a nice guy.
Sure he is.
Yeah, Phillip Rivers. But that's the thing. He if not for his ill-timed, terrible decisions, They beat Jacksonville, and they probably beat Cleveland.
And probably Pittsburgh.
That's insane. And yet they went 11-5 with that. So, I mean, from that perspective, you can see how someone would look at them and say, okay, so now take Carson Wentz, healthy, reunited with Frank Reich, real offensive line, although, again, left tackle is a concern. Real running game for sure. I mean, the interior of their offensive line is terrific.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Okay, so why wouldn't you like that with an 11-5 team? Now they're a 13-4 team or whatever. I think honestly, when you ask that question, I guess I'll say it's going to take 12 wins to win the AFC South.
There we go. 12-5, baby. I love it.
5 losses.
That's right. When we come back, it's time for weekend winners here on the program. We've got some winners to throw your way next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Some winners, we hope. Robby and Rexrode have weekend winners for you now
on ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
And it is time for weekend winners here on Robby and Rexrode. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Lots going on this weekend, both here locally and in the world of sports at large. We got a lot to get to coming up. Let's start with a quick standings update. Joe Rexrode, do you have an update on the standings? How did we do last week?
So we got a couple 4-2s with our locks. That's you and me. Porth with a 2-4 no lock.
Woof.
So the standings as of going into today. Me, 38-22, 9-1 on my locks, 47 points. About to go move to Vegas.
Thank you.
If I follow this up with a great football season, that might be it. I might finally make the move. Porth 31-28, 3-7 on locks for 34 points. And Robby has moved up 24-36.
Terrible.
Wait a minute. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I wrote this wrong. 5-5, not 4-4. 5-5 with your locks.
Okay.
And you got 29 points. So your locks, you're only 5 points behind Porth. So it's,
closing in.
Yeah.
You're having a hard time with Word documents and math today.
Yes, I am.
Yes.
And thinking and talking.
All of those things at once. So without further ado, let's get rolling today on today's version of Weekend Winners. We begin with a massive game tomorrow, potentially, for the Nashville Predators. The Carolina Hurricanes taking on the Predators at Bridgestone Arena. Ryan Porth, we begin with you. The Predators and the Hurricanes on the money line.
Preds.
Yeah.
Preds money line. Give it to me.
Going with the Predators against the Hurricanes. They pick up their first win against Carolina. I am also going with the Predators because in Call Your Shot Friday, I predicted a sequence of events that leads to Pecorino getting a shutout in this game on Saturday, so I have to stick with it. So I'm going with the Predators in this game. Joe Rexrode, the Predators and the Hurricanes, money line. Who you got?
Yeah, well, I got to go Call Your Shot too, right? I went overtime loss.
Yeah.
So give me the Canes.
Hurricanes picking up their 7th win against the Predators, according to Joe Rexrode. The Lightning and the Stars. Tampa Bay taking on the Dallas Stars tonight. If Tampa Bay wins in regulation, the Predators are in the playoffs. Joe Rexrode, we begin with you. Who do you have on the money line between Tampa Bay and Dallas?
Dallas keeps the season alive. It was not as bad as 6-2 may suggest the other night.
It was not.
And they're going to rise up and make this real interesting. Give me the Stars.
Joe taking the Stars. Ryan Porth, money line between the Stars and the Lightning. Who you got?
See, I thought we were going with the spread in this. So I have the Stars on the spread.
Who you have winning the game?
What are we doing, money line or are we doing spread?
We're doing money line.
Doing money line.
I don't know.
You don't know who you think's going to win?
I'll go with the Lightning.
Okay.
I'll take Tampa Bay, the Stanley Cup champs.
I'll take the defending Stanley Cup champions who won the game 6-2 the other night. All right, if you make me, give me the Lightning and make it my lock. The Lightning are going to they are ending the season tonight for Dallas. I think the Lightning come out and steamroll the Stars tonight. Give me the Lightning. It's my lock of the week.
Interesting.
Have at it.
And if that's the case, then Carolina is pushed also to, like Carolina's.
Yeah.
They are pushed. They are motivated. They have got to come in here and
keep going.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Ooh, what a sequence of events
it could be.
Oh,
here. Nashville SC taking on the New England Revolution tomorrow at Nissan Stadium. Pregame here on ESPN 94.9 starting at 12:15. I will begin. I've been burned a couple times not picking a draw. I'm going to be burned again. Give me the New England Revolution money line tomorrow against Nashville SC. New England at number 1 in the Eastern Conference right now. Give me the Revolution to win against Nashville SC. Joe Rexrode, Nashville SC, New England Revolution money line. You can go a winner or a draw. You've had a lot of success on the draw picking Nashville SC.
Yep. I've been going draws, and it's been working out pretty well for me. But I'm going to go Nashville SC. I think that they put it all together, put together a complete match, and get the victory.
Ryan Porth, the money line for Nashville SC and the New England Revolution. Who you got?
Nashville SC.
Nashville SC. So I believe Porth has gone Nashville SC every single time.
I mean, at some point, that's going to hit.
You are correct.
Unless they just go winless all season.
You are
they're going to hit you for continuing to pick them.
Exactly.
We might reach Preds pick to click territory at some point with me. So we'll see what happens on that front. Now we go to the individual picks here in the competition. Ryan Porth, we begin with you. Your first individual selection here on Weekend Winners.
All right, so baseball has been pretty successful for me so far in the last few weeks. And the St. Louis Cardinals are playing well. The Colorado Rockies stink. And the Cardinals have their ace on the mound tonight with Jack Flaherty. Give me the Cardinals -1.5, and that is my lock.
Guaranteed. Porth going with Major League Baseball, the St. Louis Cardinals, -1.5, his lock for the weekend. Joe Rexrode, your first individual selection in Weekend Winners this week.
As usual, I am going all NBA. It's worked well, and I basically get 2 out of 3 every week with it. I'll take that. Celtics Bulls. Celtics at Bulls. Celtics -4. The Bulls are trash dump. Celtics are battling. They're battling your Miami Heat.
I'm aware.
For positioning here in the playoff race. Give me the Celtics -4. Make that my lock.
Wow.
Guaranteed. Trash number.
Joe Rexrode going with the Boston Celtics -4 against the Chicago Bulls. His lock of the week. I'm going to start in the NBA as well.
Didn't the Bulls win last night?
Yeah, they did.
Trash dump.
Give me my beloved Miami Heat
Trash dump.
-6.5 against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think the Heat get it done against the Timberwolves. -6.5 for the Miami Heat. I'll begin the next round as well of Weekend Winners. Sticking in the NBA, the Jazz and the Nuggets, the over-under is at 217. Give me the over. Give me the over. 217 between the Jazz and the Nuggets. That's 2 NBA picks for me right off the jump just to combat Joe Rexrode. What do you think of that?
I like it. That T-Wolves game, is that tonight?
That is tonight.
Yep.
T-Wolves and Heat tonight. Heat -6.5.
I
Jazz
like
Nuggets over under at 217. I've
That should
got
be a
the
good
over.
game.
Should be. I'm looking forward to it. Ryan Porth, your second pick in the individual selections on Weekend Winners.
My pick is that Robbie's going to do better on NBA picks than Joe this week.
Oh, I like that.
Ooh.
Oh.
I like that.
All right, so I have a second baseball
You better
one.
hope not.
I have a second baseball one. Yeah. So last week I resisted to take the Padres-Giants under 7.5 for some reason, and it hit, so I'm going to take it again as they are playing in San Francisco tonight. Padres-Giants under 7.5 in 6 of their meetings this year. That under has hit 4 times.
Padres-Giants.
Blake Snell versus Anthony DeSclafani, 2 good pitchers.
So Porth throwing a little baseball action our way back-to-back so far in Weekend Winners. Joe Rexrode, your second selection individually in Weekend Winners.
Both your baseballs are tonight so far, right?
Correct.
Yep. Well, I like Nuggets Jazz too. That's the game of the night. TV is not treating it that way, unfortunately.
Which is amazing.
No?
What's the TV game?
It's like Celts Bulls is one of them, and it's
Are the Knicks playing tonight? Probably them.
I think it's Lakers,
Yeah.
Blazers.
Okay.
Which I got later. But anyway, right now,
I'm sure you did.
Nuggets Jazz. Jazz -4 at home. Nuggets have, they've done a heck of a job overcoming Jamal Murray's injury, but I like the Jazz right now the way they're playing. Give me the Jazz -4.
Joe Rexrode, your final selection in the individual selections for Weekend Winners.
I'll go with the game that's on TV that shouldn't be on TV. Lakers are all banged up. They're a mess. Blazers are in a battle. Blazers at home -8.5. That is a big line.
Woo.
I'll take it. I will give the 8.5. I think they're just going to rain threes on the Lakers tonight. Blazers -8.5.
It's Dame time tonight.
-8.5
That's
against
right.
the LA Lakers. Ryan Porth, your final selection here on Weekend Winners for this week.
We're going to the ice. Feel like what happened at MSG kind of ticked off the Washington Capitals. Tonight they host the Philadelphia Flyers, who have nothing to play for. And the Capitals have everything to play for as they try to win the division. Capitals -1.5.
Capitals -1.5 against the Philadelphia Flyers. I will round out today's version of Weekend Winners by going back to the NHL and getting to a game I think we all are very intrigued to see over the weekend, and that is this. The Detroit Red Wings and the Columbus Blue Jackets. Give me Detroit plus the 1.5 against Columbus. Don't discount the Detroit Red Wings. They're going to beat Columbus straight up, but they're getting the 1.5. Give me Detroit plus 1.5 against the mighty Columbus Blue Jackets.
That's some disrespect for Stevie Y's
It is.
rapidly growing club.
It is, and I won't stand for it. Give me the Red Wings plus 1.5.
Battle for last place.
Battle for last place. I think Columbus gets it done. They finish in last place. Red Wings are tired of it.
Man,
they're done with it.
What a big step. What a big step for Hockey Town.
Absolutely.
You know what that game is?
Trash number.
That is true. But I knew neither one of you would pick it on Weekend Winners. And true. To be honest with you,
you had that all to yourself.
There may not be more than one goal scored in that game in general. So
you'd be in good
shape. I feel
shape.
good about the plus 1.5.
The under 5.5 I was looking last night, the under is like minus 170.
Yeah.
I've never seen that before. Yeah. Like, why didn't they just move it to under 5?
They're very confident in the under. That is for sure. That is today's version of Weekend Winners. Gentlemen, good luck this weekend.
You don't mean that.
I don't mean it for you, that's for sure. I hope that we have provided some good info for our listeners this weekend in Weekend Winners. When we come back, we'll continue the show to wrap up, looking ahead to Mother's Day, maybe some tributes to the best sports moment with mom. We'll get your thoughts as well on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 News Code Red meteorologist Dan Guthrie. Back to sunshine and calmer conditions today. Afternoon highs will be heading to the upper 60s and lower 70s. Storms back on both Saturday and Sunday.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
It's a seller's market, so why aren't more people selling? You could sell your Nashville home and make a fortune, but are you waiting because you can't find a home to buy? The Gary Ashton team has a solution. Don't sell without the intel.
This season, catch all the action in Nashville Sounds baseball on ESPN 94.9, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans and by 312 Pizza. Tonight, the Sounds go up against the Toledo Mud Hens. Pregame starts at 5:50, and the first pitch is at 6:05 p.m. Saturday versus the Toledo Mud Hens, pregame at 3:50, first pitch at 4:05, and then Sunday against Toledo as well, pregame at 12:50 and first pitch at 1:05. So lots of action taking place this weekend on ESPN 94.9 regarding the Nashville Sounds. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, ESPN 102.5 The Game, final segment of the day. And, Joe, Mother's Day coming up this weekend on Sunday. Number one, Hope we're all prepared for this, and we've got the gifts in place. I'm a really bad last-minute shopper, but I am proud to say I've had this one picked out, selected for a couple weeks now. It's not typically my style. Usually like on Christmas or Mother's Day or whoever, somebody's birthday, it either happens the night before or the day of. That's a very common occurrence.
I can relate to that. So I'm in an interesting situation with, like, Mother's Day. My focus is my wife, mother of my kids. She is massively key in deciding my mom, my grandma, her mom. I mean, really, like, again, it's just a total unfair situation for her, but she trudges on with me amazingly. So anyway, I've been working on her gift, and it's very well known in my family that my gifts have not been very good, but we'll see if this one works or not.
Ryan Porter, are you a good gift giver? How would you describe or rate your gift-giving skills when it comes to the holidays out there?
I'd say about B+.
Really?
Yeah.
So above average.
Yeah. I would say some come up short a little bit, that I'm a little disappointed in myself, but some work out pretty well.
I'm heavily in the D range, for sure. I'm not going to quite give myself an F, but D+, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, I think I'm like C, but again,
your family would say F.
I mean, they might give me a D-. They just, but the thing is, like, at this point, they want to laugh at how stupid my gift is. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, even if I give a good gift, it's going to be made fun of because I've had so many bad ones. So it's kind of like Tom Wilson. You know, like, it may not be suspendable, but they're still going to, like, I'm going to get penalized for who I am.
Yeah, could be. That's a good point. Maybe you should have brought that up yesterday, and I wouldn't have called you asinine. My mother wouldn't have got mad at me leading into Mother's Day weekend here. So, with that in mind, Mother's Day coming up, what are some of the best sports moments that you can remember with your mother?
See, the thing is, I thought of this yesterday, and then I was like, I don't really have one. It's more like, to me, it's like, how many times did she take me to practices, pick me up from practices, and, cheer you on at games as you get older? You're kind of like, Mom, don't yell my name.
Dial it back a little bit.
Like, if I get a hit, like, Joey, everybody calls me Joey in my family. That's another.
Oh, yes. You should not have told me that.
Yeah, well, I mean, they still do. I mean, which actually I like now. Like, I hated that as a kid.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to sound mature, but now I actually like it. That's fine. Call me Joey all day. But I do remember Greater Manassas Football League 1983. I had a big game for the Cowboys against the Dolphins. And I just remember, like, my mom was really excited. We got the orange slices at halftime. I threw some deep touchdown pass. And in like fifth grade football, it's like
10-yard.
Well, I mean, it might have been like 30 yards downfield, but there was like nobody in coverage.
Yes.
Like kind of an open window.
Like, oh my God, they're passing. What's going on here?
Yeah, he's wide open. Arm punt it to him. But I do remember that day. But a lot of support and just years and years of taxing and being there. I remember a Little League loss where I busted out crying because I made a couple errors, and, she was there. So I don't have a great one thing, but it's just the overall appreciation for her being a good mom.
Yep, I'm the same way. Like, basically my mother's part-time job when I was growing up playing baseball was taking me to baseball tournaments. Like, that's what our summer was. It was every day. I mean, every other day. I mean, every day. We were either practicing, we were playing, we were traveling somewhere, especially like when you get to, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old. I mean, you're playing on these travel teams. You're going all over the place. So one summer we ended up in Cincinnati. We were in Florida at one point. We're in Atlanta at another point. I mean, it was all over the place. And you're trying to navigate your normal life while also accommodating travel baseball of your 13-year-old son that's going on. So it was a whole bunch of that. Just very appreciative to my mother, my father for all the sacrifices that they made, and my mom driving me around literally all the time. That's all we did. And it wasn't just me. I mean, we had basically there was a little group of us when we were playing, 5 or 6 of us, that was just, you're going in Deborah's car. That's what you're doing. And that's what it was all summer long, every summer. So
nice.
Good stuff there on that front. Make sure if you've not picked up your Mother's Day gift yet, it is Sunday. So I want to throw that reminder out there and that you're able to do that. Joe, we've talked about the Predators and the big game coming up this weekend. Now, you have the Dallas Stars winning tonight against the Tampa Bay Lightning, which would mean they will remain alive in this race, and the magic number would remain at 2 for the Nashville Predators, meaning they've either got to beat the Hurricanes once or Dallas would have to lose to Chicago in regulation, or I guess the Predators could lose both games in overtime as well. What do you think about this weekend for the Predators? And if it works out that way, where Dallas wins tonight, is this how it should be? Is this the way the Predators should end the season? Should they have to force their way into the playoffs by taking down a team that they've not been able to beat all season long?
I think it's better for them. I think it's better for them to have to face that pressure and see it up close and try to take down a team they haven't been able to take down. It may provide some more nerves for fans, but I think it's better. And I was very impressed that the poll ended up, I'm assuming still, way in the favor of would rather see them earn their way in. You know, on weekend winners, I think I said if Tampa Bay wins outright, that means Carolina's playing for something. But obviously that means the Preds aren't playing for anything. So scratch that. That doesn't make it interesting. It makes it interesting.
Well, it depends. If Tampa Bay wins and they get an overtime.
In overtime only.
Yeah.
That would be the one way. But I'll be honest, we're not supposed to root, but I will be much more excited for tomorrow if Dallas at least gets a point tonight to prolong this and push it to you've got to do something, Preds, against Carolina to get in.
So do you just not want to see Pecorine play again? Is that what this is?
No, but we don't even know. Hey, I trust Willie says 70-30 he's coming back.
He does.
So
he could be right. I have no clue.
I'm rolling with Willie.
I have no clue. The final results of the poll question, by the way, today's poll question at 1025 The Game on Twitter. If the Predators were to clinch this weekend, how would you prefer the playoff spot gets clinched? Would it be a Dallas regulation loss, or would it be the Predators beating Carolina? 69% say they would prefer the Predators to beat Carolina. 31% say they would prefer a Dallas regulation loss.
Nice.
Thank you, Porth. I saw your little grin as soon as I read that off.
Wow. Well, that's good. I'm excited about that.
Should be. You're going to be in the house tomorrow at Bridgestone Arena, right?
Well, and yes, and on the point of Pekka, that'll be exciting. On the point of Pecorine, too, you can earn your way in tomorrow, and then you can see him Monday.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that how Hines would play it?
Probably,
right? Like if
I would think so.
If they have to wrap it up tomorrow, obviously they're going to start Saros. Then you'd still have Saros would have maybe a week off, but I think that's fine, right?
Still have practice. Yeah, he'd be fine.
Yeah. So you can have cake and eat it too. One of the dumbest phrases and all the dumb phrases.
Yeah, anybody would want cake and doesn't eat it.
Yeah, let me have cake so I can rub it all over my chest. You know, you can have your cake and eat it too.
Greg on Twitter says, so what Joe is saying, he embraces being called Joey, quote, with arms wide open, and tags Creed in it as well.
Oh,
what a great song. What a great way to end the show. Thank you, Greg. That does it for us today here on Robby and Rexrode. Darren Donican Chase is coming up next. This is ESPN 1025 The Game.
This hour of Robby and Rexrode is brought to you by Train. Get a great deal this spring on a new Train heating and cooling system. At Train, they test so it runs. Visit traininfo.com to find your local dealer and learn more. It's hard to stop a train.